We'll go ahead and get started. Call the meeting to order this evening. The governor has declared a state of emergency to exist in California, a result of the threat of COVID-19, while the governor issued executive orders N721, which lifted certain orders and associated restrictions. There are still public health directives in place. The public's health and well-being are the top priority of the city, and you're urged to take all appropriate health safety precautions. This meeting is utilizing Zoom application for this live broadcast. For this meeting, we'll be using the question and answers functionality of the tool in order to accommodate public comment. On your device, the question and answer section of the app is located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. For those that would like to comment during this meeting, please enter your comment into the question and answers portion of the app and be sure to state the item you'll be commenting on. During the public comment of each item, staff will read aloud the comments provided by the public for all to hear for that specific item. Can I have a roll call?
Mayor Shaw,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kirchner,
Here.
Councilmember Baumgarten,
Here.
Councilmember Espandola, here, Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. Mr. Chaffin, will you please read the closed session items for this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have one item for closed session. That's closed session agenda item A, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The agency designated representatives are Diana Langley, City Manager, Natalie Springer, Human Resources Director, Brad McIntyre, Community Services Director, Spencer Morrison, Finance Director, Ben Moody, Public Works and Development Services Director, Brian Baker, Police Chief, Jesse Alexander, Fire Chief, and Michael Jarvis, LCS. Employee organizations are the Yuba City Police Officers, Police Sergeants, Yuba City Firefighters, Local 3793, Yuba City Fire Management, First Level Managers, Mid-Managers, Police Sworn Mid-Managers, and Public Employees, Local Number 1. The unrepresented employees are confidential employees, Executive Services employees.
Thank you, sir. Is there any comments from the public? And seeing none, is there any public comments from online?
No public comment.
Then we will go into closed session. I will call the meeting back to order. The governor has declared a state of emergency to exist in California as a result of the threat of COVID-19, while the governor recently issued Executive Order N721, which lifted certain orders and associated restrictions. There are still public health directives in place. The public's health and well-being are top priority for the city of Yuba City, and you're urged to take all appropriate health and safety precautions. This meeting is utilizing Zoom application for this live broadcast. For this meeting, we will be using the question and answers functionality of this tool in order to accommodate public comment. On your device, use the Q&A section of the app. It is located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. For those that would like to comment during this meeting, please enter your comment into the question and answers portion of the app and be sure to state the item you will be commenting on. During the public comment of each item, staff will read aloud the comments provided by the public for all to hear for that specific item. Be timely with your questions, as once the public hearing is closed or the item has been discussed by council and voted on, no more comments will be accepted for that item. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Shaw,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kirchner,
Here.
Councilmember Baumgarten,
Here.
Councilmember Espandola,
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here.
All right. Tonight, we will have our invocation given by Mr. George Barlow and our Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Sierra Wakefield, please stand.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening. Father, I pray for the decisions made tonight. Father, I pray for our council. I pray, Father, for those on the lines tonight, our first responders. Father, we thank you for their service. Father, we pray that their paths are clear. We pray for those that are serving this city and beyond, and we thank you, Father, for their service. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both. Mr. Chaffin, will you give us the report out of closed session this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was no reportable action taken in closed session.
All right. And we'll move on to agenda modifications and approval of tonight's agenda. I'm going to request that item 16, the 60-day trial program to provide overnight parking for the homeless and families, be moved to the first item under business items, if there's no objection by the council.
So,
All right, is there any other modifications? Hearing none, the agenda will go forward tonight with the one modification. So we're going to move on to the fun stuff, ceremonial presentations. And I'd like for the council to come down front. And Marnie Sanders, if you will please join us as the CEO of our Chamber of Commerce. All right, much better. So, Marty, thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to do a proclamation tonight for Small Business Week. And small businesses make up a large percentage of our community here. And it's good that we do this. And as a small business owner myself, I just want to encourage everyone to shop local and support the small businesses, because that's the backbone that this country was really built on. So with that, we're going to do a proclamation for Small Business Week, May 1st through 7th, 2022. Whereas the city of Yuba City recognizes National Small Business Week and values the dedication and entrepreneurial spirit of small businesses that keep the Yuba-Sutter region's economy growing stronger. And in the collaborative mission of the city of Yuba City, working in partnership with the Yuba-Sutter Chamber of Commerce and other organizations to help businesses develop and thrive. And small businesses are not only the engines of our economic process, they employ local residents, and they are the heart and soul of our community. And the city of Yuba City appreciates the support provided to our small businesses by the Yuba-Sutter Chamber of Commerce and other organizations. And during the week of May 1st through 7th, 2022, the National Small Business Administration and the Yuba-Sutter Chamber of Commerce are celebrating Small Business Week. Therefore, be it resolved that I, Dave Shaw, Mayor of the City of Yuba City, on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim May 1st through 7th, 2022 as Small Business Week in the City of Yuba City, and urge all citizens to acknowledge and celebrate the achievements made by small businesses both locally and nationally.
well, I would just like to say on behalf of our small business community, thank you to the council and to the city for your support of our small business community. Like this proclamation reads, they are the backbone of our community. And now more than ever, they deserve the recognition because of their tenacity to persevere through this last couple of years of COVID, and they're really coming out strong. So it is a privilege to be up here today to accept this on behalf of our small business community. So thank you.
All right, now we will move on to agenda item 2. This is appearance of interested citizens. You're welcome to and encouraged to participate in this meeting. Public comment is taken on items listed on the agenda when they are called. The public comment items is for not listed on the agenda tonight will be considered at this time. Comments on controversial items may be limited, and large groups are encouraged to select representatives to express the opinions of the group. Members of the public will have 3 minutes to speak. Written requests received at least 24 hours prior to this meeting will be allotted 5 minutes to comment. We do have 2 written requests tonight, and the first one is Sandra Dilday. There she is. And if you will please state your name for the record, and then you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor Shaw and council members. Good evening to all. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you this evening. My name is Sandra Dilday. I am a Yuba City native. I currently own a home in North Yuba City, and I work in Yuba City. I am here this evening to bring your attention to the unacceptable and unsafe activity happening at Sam Brannan Park on Gray Avenue, specifically tennis, pickleball courts, and skate park, and to request that the city take some positive action to provide a more safe environment for all users of the park. I'd like also to recognize all of those in attendance that are part of the pickleball community, if you would stand. I know we're a small group. Thank you, Grace. I know we're a small group, but thank you for being here this evening. I play pickleball with a small group of women in the early evenings, usually between the hours of 5:30 and 8:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Did you all know that pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the nation of all ages? All ages. Use of the courts at Sam Brannan does come with challenges. We have witnessed numerous drug transactions and usage, vandalism of city property, fires set on city property, cutting locks, climbing over the fences while they're locked, fights, cars speeding through the parking lot, garbage on the courts, kids climbing over the fence into the pickleball courts while we're playing, and large dogs running loose in the park and parking lot. Bathrooms are unacceptable to most, and I personally would not use nor take a child inside. On March 14th, my car was damaged in the parking lot. This night, there was a larger than normal group of people in the parking lot. I reported to Community Service Director Brad McIntyre, and I have submitted a claim to the city for the deductible that I will be out of pocket for repairs. I understand there were cameras on and there is footage to support my claim. Another evening, I arrived a little early to go see firsthand how bad the bathrooms really were and why we couldn't use them. While walking on the sidewalk toward the bathrooms, a full-on fist fight broke out in front of me. I immediately turned and ran back to my car. Someone called 911 and police responded immediately. On April 7th, our group was inside the courts, and a group of about 12 to 14 young people came into the courts on skateboards, bikes, and scooters. When I asked them to please not do this as they were damaging the courts, they responded with disrespectful behavior. As the situation escalated, I felt we may be in danger, and I called 911, clearly stating our location and that we were scared. By the time officers arrived in the parking lot at the park, they saw nothing going on and no reason of concern. The kids had moved on to the skate park side by then. I brought pictures that I'd like to share with you if I may.
Thank you.
We had to go outside the courts to have conversation with the officers, and again, they saw no reason to be concerned. Just some old ladies that are upset. One of the women in our group actually called her husband to come down to the park as we did not even feel safe to get out to our cars that night. I've not been back to the park since. I realize this is and has been an ongoing problem for the city for a very long time. That skate park was built years ago. My son, who is now 35 years old, went to the skate park. This is not new, and most of us, this is not new, and most of you are aware that it has been an ongoing situation with little resolution. But for me, as a lifelong member of this community, I feel that I can no longer go to the courts in the evening safely. I have been told by coworkers and friends not to go there, that it is simply not safe. That's how others in the community feel without even having experienced firsthand how it really is. I don't know if you noticed that one of the pictures there with the young man who is bending over, he did actually pull his pants down and flash me. The young people using the park that we have encountered simply have no respect for anyone or anything. I can't help but wonder if this is how they behave in front of their own parents or grandparents. The city of Yuba City is spending valuable man hours and resources every single day on this one location. And for what? It isn't getting any better. It has only gotten worse. I visited Eastern Oak Park in Sacramento to see how they're managing their pickleball courts and park. What a huge difference from Sam Brennan. The park was very well maintained. Bathrooms were clean, safe, and usable for all. The courts were full with a rotating system that all wanted to play could play. I went home asking myself, why is our courts not being utilized like this? Our courts are almost never used to capacity.
Sandra, your 5 minutes are up. Could you kind of wrap up
You
in
bet,
another
you
minute
bet.
or so?
I don't have the answers. I'm here to ask you for support. There have been suggestions for improvement. Security, security, security. Changing fencing between the skate park and the tennis and pickleball courts. More security. Speed bumps to slow the speeding cars down in the parking lot. Upgrade the bathrooms and drinking fountains is a must. And I have been told the money is there for that. Limit the skate park hours. They'll just climb over. It won't matter. It was brought to our attention at the skate park has recently been temporarily closed. What's the point of having it closed temporarily? They just climb over anyway, and you've done that before, and it hasn't solved any issues. For now, I only use the courts in the early hours of any given day. I encourage you as decision makers to please take steps to support the wonderful tennis and pickleball courts that our taxpayer dollars have afforded us. I hope that you will take time to visit the park to see for yourself the daily evening activity firsthand. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm going to take Mike Barrett next because it's on the same issue. So that way we can hear both comments. You have 3 minutes, sir. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Michael Barrett, 1168 Live Oak Boulevard, Yuba City. For those of you that know me, know that 5 years ago I brought pickleball to Yuba City. I'm president of the Yuba-Sutter Pickleball Club, besides being an attorney here in town. I'll remind the city that we were playing on old courts with striped lines and temporary nets. And then through all of our hard work, I think this city spent about $300,000 building us this beautiful pickleball facility. And it's in substantial danger already. Basically, what the city needs to understand is the surface of the court is not just concrete. It's a thin elastomeric surface, which is very susceptible to damage by bicycles, by skateboards, by even, we've prohibited people bringing in even portable chairs to sit in there and watch matches, which is why we have the bleachers, why we have the big doors that open so that everybody can enjoy it, but we can preserve the courts. And the biggest problem that we're seeing with regard to the juveniles at the skate park is starting fires. They come in despite the signs, they want to ride their bikes, their skateboards. I mean, we're constantly telling them they can't do that. Here's the sign, you need to leave. And it's a safety issue. They're, from their side of the fence, they're filling water bottles, with urine, throwing them over the fence. I mean, the behavior is disgusting. And, all of these nice ladies, and there's a lot of others of us that play pickleball, and we're constantly assaulted over there at the courts when we're just simply trying to do something that's for the benefit of everybody. So if the city does have it in its budget to perhaps make some improvements, like perhaps one of those steel revolving things where only a person can get in, you can't get a bicycle into those courts, that would certainly help. You know, there may be other security measures. If someone has more time and wants to meet with me, I'll be glad to come over to your office and sit down and give you all kinds of ideas of how other cities and other facilities manage their pickleball courts. But I've got Mr. Baker here. I text him regularly about the need to send people out to the courts or I've got the city of Yuba City Police Department on speed dial. And we're constantly calling them all the time to intervene, and a lot of times they help. But more needs to be done. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Before we go to the next speaker, I can say that I know myself, I'm sure the rest of the council as well, has received a lot of emails and correspondence concerning that. And I can speak for myself, the fact that no one should be going to anywhere, parks or pickleball courts or anything else and feeling unsafe. And that was the most alarming thing to me. And the Michael, to the point, I think you actually killed us in the very first pickleball tournament we had there. I played pickleball twice, and it was that day 2 games, and I was eliminated. It's a great sport, and it doesn't matter if it's pickleball, if it's basketball. People should not be going there and being in fear. And so I know the city is well aware of that. And Ms. Langley, did you want to address things from the city at this point briefly?
Yeah. Through the chair, can I add to your comment that I think what was stated is valid, concerning. I've been present at many of those situations. There's an opportunity to sit down and come up with a good plan that financially would not burden the city tremendously. I know we've kind of Band-Aid situations at this point, but I think it's important for us to perhaps bring this back in a future agenda item with additional funding to help us resolve some of these issues.
Ms. Langley?
Yes, so Brad McIntyre, the Community Services Director, has talked to Ms. Dilday about different opportunities for improvements such as lighting, additional fencing issues, increasing the security guard that's there on site. And so through the budget process, it's my understanding that he has submitted some requests to address those items. That doesn't necessarily address the potential for incompatible uses that are adjacent to each other. And so, with councils, this isn't an agendized item where council can provide direction other than if council wants staff to bring this forward as an agendized item in the future for discussion.
Absolutely. With that, I guess to convey to you tonight, we are aware, we're concerned as you are, and you should not feel unsafe being there. So I suspect this will be back before the council at some point when you're ready to bring it back, Ms. Langley. And as far as the budgetary constraints, we have a budgetary ad hoc committee that these proposals are already through. And so that's going to be coming forward in May and June. So I'm sure that they'll take that under advisement, make recommendations back to us. And that's the most expedient way for us to get that done, because it's the perfect timing. We're in the budget season right now. So thank you all for being here, and know that you have been heard. And it was very disturbing, I know, to myself and probably everyone up here, that you felt intimidated and threatened. It's unacceptable behavior. And if the parents are aware of the way their children are acting, parents need to be parents and stop the behavior. So that's my 2 cents. And you can email me if you don't like it, but parents need to be parents. So with that, we will move on to the next person that submitted a request. And that's Piara Joel. Sir, you have 5 minutes. Please state your name for the record, please.
Thank you, Mayor Shaw. I've got to move this thing a little bit further back. Mayor Shaw, members of the council, I am here in regard, my name is Piara Singh Joel. I reside at 2088 Live Oak Boulevard, Yuba City. And I am here in regard to the name of the park that was celebrated yesterday. I am against it. 110%. Now, there are several reasons, and I will start with the agenda that you had on March the 15th. Now, staff has received a request, and I believe reading this thing is because maybe the city was in a hurry to give a contract ASAP. I don't know. But staff has received a request to name the park after Mr. Didar S. Baines as the founder of the Terabuna Sikh Temple and Sikh Parade. Now, request a name. Now, who requested it? Did Mr. McIntyre found that name? Did somebody? There's no mention of it. Now, it also says that he found the Terabuna Sikh Temple. He did not found the Terabuna Sikh Temple. What I'm trying to get at is that you, the members of the commission, council, is writing a bad history for the East Indian community. Because whatever is written here will go down as a history, and which is false. And I do not want to speak, before this, because, hey, so what? Hey, so what? But I think enough is enough. Now, he was not the founder of the Sikh Temple. Mr. Prewal family, or Bukhtawar Singh and Udham Singh, they donated 3 acres of the property to the Sikh Temple. Now, the next item is Sikh Parade. It was jointly put together to let the community know what Sikhism is. It wasn't Mr. Didar Baines that did this. In going along with it, Mr. Baines is a significant figure in the Yuba City community as a board member of the California Canning Beach Association. Yes, he was, but that's part of a business that he was doing. He grew peaches. And we all did, and that has nothing to do with the community. Mr. Baines has direct impact on California agriculture policy, established a long list of benefits to local growers and farmers, and there is none that Mr. Didar Baines had done. So, Mr. Baines meets the criteria for candidacy for the new adopted park. I don't think so, because then we go to another resolution here, or the exhibit, that is by the city, and I hate to bring this up to Mr. McIntyre. I wish that he would have done more research on this thing before he presented it to the council. Now, qualifying names, number one, street that is adjacent to the park. And it was noted later on that it cannot be named Harder Park because there's a Harder Park off of Butte House Road. Well, what would you imagine that the park where Harder Road ends, Tully Road begins, and Tully had more character than Mr. Didar Baines did. And that Tully Road or Tully Expressway is going to go all the way up to a Peace Road. Now, that's suggestion. Geographical, no. Individuals, yes, they have comments in there, and I will notify that. Organization, it is not from, unless it was said that, hey, it is a Sikh temple that is doing that. That is an organization. Now, the criteria coming into individuals, deceased at least 3 years, which he's done. Died in the line of duty serving our community or the United States. He did not. Made extraordinary, lasting, and significant contribution to the city of Yuba City, the region, state of California, or United States of America, died while performing a heroic act. He did not. Now, the next one, made significant donation, contribution to the city of Yuba City, resulting in acquisition of property. He did not. Now, it was mentioned in the letter, which is dated February 27th, I believe, that they donated, Mr. Didar Baines and his partners donated that property for the park, which is a false, as you and Mr. McIntyre should have known. That was part of doing business. When the approval was done for all those shops to be put up, it was that there has to be a place that is developed into a community, which comes into a park or a school. So it was not donated by Mr. Didar Baines and his partners. It was part of doing business. Individual will not be considered that could cast a negative, okay? Individual was a resident of the city of Yuba City for over 20 years. Now, Mr. Dadar, as far as I know, is lives in the county. He does have property that is owned by him in the city, but not there. A background check paid by the applicant will be required for any individual after whom a park will be named. I have no idea what they have done and what they have not, and that should have made it public to the rest of the people. So there are many others. Am I running out of time?
Yes, sir, your time is up.
Okay, well, then I won't go any further, but there are many other things that I would like to bring up. I may come back next week to finish that up, because I am 110% against it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Joel. I will just share with you that the park process has been disclosed to you. The park has been named, and it will not come back before the council for further action because as part of that policy, it has been done. So I know staff has made you aware of that. So, but thank you for being here. Is there any other comments to come before the council tonight on things that are not on the agenda? Any online?
No public comment.
All right. Thank you. Then we will move on to the consent calendar. All matters that are listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and can be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time that the council votes on the motion unless members of the city council, staff, or public request specific items to be discussed or removed from the consent calendar for individual actions. Would any member of the public like to speak on any item on the consent calendar? Any member of the public? Online?
No public comment.
All right. Then we will bring this back to the council for action.
Through the mayor,
Councilwoman Espandola?
I moved to approve consent calendar items.
I have a motion by Councilmember Espandola, a second by the Vice Mayor. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. We will go directly into business items, which we will be taking business item 16 next, which is the 60-day trial program to provide an overnight vehicle parking area for homeless individuals and families at county-owned property located at 850 Gray Avenue in Yuba City, and that will be presented tonight by our city manager, Diana Langley. Before we go into this, I do want to make a comment. We have been made aware that in the last 48 hours that there's been a lot of misinformation that has left a lot of confusion. So during the presentation tonight, I ask you all to listen and formulate your questions that you might have or your comments, because that is more pertinent, and listen to what is actually being proposed at the county-owned facility. And with that, Ms. Langley, I will turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. So I do have a presentation prepared tonight, and just point of decision for council. There's a couple opportunities during the slides in which I can have like Officer Koski come up to discuss the enforcement issue. Would you prefer that he do that during my presentation or at the end of my presentation?
Pleasure of the council. After or during?
I think I'm good either way, just depends on the flow
Yeah,
with the
you-
topic and what.
Your choice.
Okay, all right. So for background, Sutter County has implemented several programs to assist the homeless with sheltering options. One of those is the homeless tent camping site on 2nd Street, the Better Way Shelter off of Live Oak Boulevard, the Harmony Village Home Key Project, which converted a hotel to permanent housing, collaboration with the Regional Housing Authority, Habitat for Humanity, and the city to develop an affordable housing project as the New Haven apartment complex. But one area that has not been addressed is vehicle campers. And so we are identifying vehicle campers as individuals that use their vehicles as living quarters and park on public streets and business parking lots. There's not a designated location where these vehicle campers can stay overnight. And so oftentimes you see these vehicle campers staying either on city streets or in private parking lots. So the city and county have collaborated to evaluate several potential options for vehicle campers. And the factors that were taken into consideration include access, safety, proximity to residential neighborhoods, and setup costs. And so staff is recommending a 60-day trial period for a safe overnight parking area located on the county-owned property at 850 Gray Avenue, which is the Kmart site. The reason this location was selected is because in terms of access, it's pretty centrally located downtown. It's in proximity to Hands of Hope, which is a coordinated entry site. And it's available in terms of the county's currently not utilizing that property. The setup costs are pretty minimal in that the site is already paved, and I do have a picture here. And so here's the former Kmart building. This is 850 Gray Avenue. For reference, here's Louise Avenue, Gray Avenue. And the proposed campground area is over here on the west side. And there's the former garden area that's currently fenced in. And so as we've been talking about a place for vehicle campers, we've discussed many sites, but one of the things that we talked about is before we implement a more permanent site, we need to get a sense of how many people would actually use such a location. As we found with the 2nd Street tent campground site, is that there are very few individuals that use that tent campground site. But as Officer Koski and potentially Sheriff Barnes and Chief Baker will discuss, is that it allows them to enforce the ordinances related to camping. So the proposal for site operations is that it would operate from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. each day. So they'd be allowed entry at 7 p.m. They would have to exit at 7 a.m. each day. There will be a security guard that's present while vehicles are parked in the designated area. The site will be fenced off. And so the guard will be stationed at the gate and will allow entry and exit. The vehicles must leave the property each morning, and they must be registered with DMV. There will be ADA restrooms and a hand washing station available. There will be security cameras, surveillance sign, flashlights, and fire extinguishers will be provided. So the Yuba City Police Department and Sutter County Sheriff's Office will maximize parking enforcement within the community and direct vehicle campers to the trial area. So this is where I would like to bring in Officer Koski to talk about what that would look like in terms of having this overnight campground available for vehicle campers. So thank you, Officer Koski.
Okay, so did you have any questions about the enforcement or?
Mayor, I do have a question about noise in that area. Would, with all the additional vehicles and people, how do we control that? Just as the conversation of, where we were just earlier with the pickleballs, and it's all in that same area.
Yeah, I think that that's kind of somewhat of a business district. The pickle park area might be affected by that. I'm not sure what time they close down. That is more of a business district than a residential. And I'm not sure how many people will be actually using the site, so it may not increase any more than normal traffic going through there. But as far as the enforcement that we can do is we do have a lot of issues with people that are camping in our parking lots, which are causing problems with businesses in the city streets, and having the enforcement on those folks to get them out of the streets, the residential areas, and out of the parking lots into this one central location. We can have those people go to those areas. It's going to be easier for us to contact them and provide outreach, as Nina said, that it's close to Hands of Hope. So our hope is that we can engage those people that are sleeping in their vehicles to get them out of those vehicles and engaged into possible housing.
Through the mayor. Officer, so one of the concerns that I've heard, that is a large property. At 7 a.m., explain to me what happens as far as enforcement of people leaving the property.
So we're hoping that it'll run much like the overnight camping area. The folks are woken up and then they're made to take down their tents and then remove themselves. And then the gate is closed. The security guard is responsible for opening and closing the gate. To this point, we haven't had anyone refuse to leave the overnight camping area. We're hoping that that's going to be the same with the vehicle parking area. A lot of those concerns we have talked about as well. What happens when the vehicle doesn't start? It might be out of gas, or it's got a flat tire. Some of those things that we're still trying to figure out. There is provisions in the vehicle code and a Sutter County ordinance that will allow us to tow the vehicle if they don't leave. But we don't want to get to that point. Again, it's where we're hoping that they'll just use this as an overnight camping area to relieve the stress on the streets and the parking lots.
Thank you.
Through the mayor, Officer Koski, I assume that vehicles that are parked, for instance, in Stan Brandon Park's parking lot could now be relocated to this location, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so some of the burden that you guys are faced with folks camping out in our parking lots, this is an option that you didn't have and don't have unless we do something like this. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Officer Koski, you and I have talked numerous times about the issues that we have with all the parking lots around. The homeless issue has vastly impacted a number of our businesses, and I know that you've been dealing with that. Can you explain what you're dealing with at other parking lots and the troubles you're having in getting them cleaned up and moving along? Because my understanding of this whole concept is if we get them in an overnight parking situation, they have to go in at night, out in the morning. Should that alleviate a lot of the trash and the destruction that's happening around town to businesses and our parking lots? And how will that help you and solving that issue that's throughout our community?
Yes, that's going to be huge. Right now, because we do have many people that bounce around from different parking lot to different parking lot, when they have a vehicle, not only do they come there, it brings in the other homeless that don't have vehicles. And then they hang out. There's a lot of trash that they bring with them that gets left behind, whether or not they may using the drugs or things like that. That seems to be a central location. And one of the things that burdens the businesses is when they do come in and they leave that trash or they stay there for multiple days, then it's difficult for the police department to tow because it is a private property. So that makes it a little bit more difficult for law enforcement. A lot of that becomes the burden of the business owner. Then they have to get their employees to go out there to clean up the trash and the things that might be left behind. In this area, I think it'll be easier for us to maintain that cleanliness and to keep the other folks from coming in that are not part of that person that's sleeping in the vehicle.
And along those same lines, the homeless that are and currently in the parking lots that are not in vehicles will not be able to go here. This is only for the RVs and such that's around, correct?
Correct.
And then on top of that, you mentioned drugs and stuff. This will be a drug-free environment that will have at least a better chance of enforcing illegal drugs at this location where you have them with a security guard and such.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have zero tolerance for drug use or possession.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so, with this proposal for the 60 days, once the extent and the need for the overnight vehicle parking is determined, then city staff, as well as Sutter County staff, will go back to our respective legislative bodies to discuss, actually prior to the 60 days, to discuss longer-term options, because at that point, we'll have a sense of how many vehicles are actually going to utilize it. In terms of the fiscal impact, the city's share would be 50% of the cost during that 60-day period, which is estimated to be $11,600. That is for security guard services, fencing, and ADA restrooms. We're proposing to use permanent local housing allocation funding, of which there's money in a CIP account. And then there would be additional nominal costs associated with assisting disabled vehicles. And so that would be up to Officer Koski's discretion, the police department's discretion in terms of, for those vehicles that need a little bit of gas to be able to get out, or they have a flat tire, or, versus those that need to be towed. That would really be up to their discretion. So with that, the recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving the establishment of a 60-day trial program to provide an overnight vehicle parking area for homeless individuals and families at county-owned property located at 850 Gray Avenue in Yuba City. And one thing before we go to council, I would like to ask the city attorney to discuss the liability issue. If you could, please.
Thank you very much, Diana. There's always risk in life. We know that. That's the reason why we have sidewalks. There's a risk walking down the sidewalk. During the County Board of Supervisors meeting last week, I believe it was, there was some question about risk and sharing risk liability. We can certainly do that. That is a legal option for the city council and the county in order to do that. There are already steps that the county has taken in order to reduce the risk and to reduce their liability. Some of those are in your staff report. They include security, lighting, restroom, posted rules, fire extinguishers, fences, and other sorts of items designed to reduce legal liability. Additionally, other steps could potentially include waivers, call-in numbers, and other recommendations from the risk carriers. Will be in coordination with the county council with regards to those items. They may have already implemented several of those, and we can come back with an updated report at a future meeting in order to address that. I believe there's going to be a joint workshop in the future. Thank you.
You have anything else, Ms. Langley?
That's it. I would like to thank representatives of Sutter County that are here in attendance.
All right. And actually, I was not only wanted to thank them, being that this is a collaborative effort between the county and the city, as the county owns the property and we're coming alongside the county to try to solve this issue. I've asked representatives from Sutter County to be here as part of the presentation. And so I would like to ask the CAO, Mr. Steve Smith, Supervisor Carm Baines, and Sheriff Brandon Barnes, if you would, since you're part of the presentation, if you would join Officer Koski and Ms. Langley and speak to us your thoughts on this program process, how this is going to benefit, hurt us, what's the overall efforts here that we're looking at together.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Carm Baines with the Sutter County representing District 4. I just want to first, start off by going back to the workshop that I attended you guys put on March 29th that was pertaining to homelessness. And I want to thank you for that workshop. I look forward to the ones we're having in the future. But seeing the need to help our law enforcement. I mean, we had Officer Kowski out here earlier, and later you'll hear from our sheriff, from Sheriff Barnes. This is one piece of the puzzle that was missing, or the missing link, for them to actually implement or enforce the ordinance that we have. And so as part of that, we've looked into a number of different areas within the city and the county. And I think that the Gray Avenue property is a good choice for the trial location, because it minimizes costs for both jurisdictions by not needing to provide fencing or paving, but also has the potential to reduce the non-vehicle transient traffic tent campers, as security will be on site for 12 hours per day. And we're aware that there's been, some issues with the non-vehicle campers on that county property in the past, but we do have security patrol that ushers the people out of the property just as soon as that they're aware of it. Those people will not be allowed to camp on the property, and the trial is only for operational vehicles that are registered with the Department of Motor Vehicles. This is also giving an option, or actually it's able to, for our law enforcement to enforce and get these folks out of our neighborhoods, out of our parks, or the parking lots of our parks, and or the businesses here within the community. If the trial shows a need for this type of parking, a different location will be selected. However, we need to see if there is a real need before we invest taxpayer money in a more permanent solution. As shown in the past, I think the jurisdictions take these projects seriously and run them very well. Fortunately, that we've had no complaints from neighbors of the Better Way, or out at Better Way. or the the camping area on Second Street or Harmony Village. And if any complaints are received about this trial area, staff from both jurisdictions will address them quickly. And I think a lot of this stuff was already said by Mrs. Langley, so I'm sorry if I sounded redundant, but happy to be here and happy to partner with the city on these efforts. Thank you.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. I don't know if anyone could state it better than my eloquent boss. However, what I would say is that there's no perfect location for any of the selected activities or the activities that Supervisor Vice Chair Baines mentioned. And there's always going to be a conflict or issue somewhere. Just know that, as he mentioned, staff, and I'm sure city staff as well, would take any complaints very seriously. If there was some violation of the rules, we would address it immediately because, but what we have tended to find, and what I've found in my research from reading about different jurisdictions who have implemented these, is that people are thankful for these areas because they feel safe, because you've got people out in the community. Someone was mentioning earlier something like, of the homeless population, 70 plus percent of the women who are homeless, it's because of domestic violence or other reasons. And for people to be able to go somewhere where there's security the entire time and someone there to enforce the rules. And again, we've had pretty much zero issues at the other campsite. And if so, we call the police and they come and they help us out immediately. So again, this wouldn't be anything I would ever recommend for a permanent location. And you heard Supervisor Baines mention as well, that would not be the case. But we want to be as thrifty as possible with taxpayer funds, so we don't want to go and invest money in paving or any infrastructure or anything if to then have it not be utilized. So.
Okay. Mr. Smith, yeah, appreciate you being here. Exactly what you said. This is temporary. You guys said it very well. It's your board meeting, 60 days. It's to get our hands around this, to figure out what we're dealing with, whether it's 10 RVs or 100 RVs. But I do have a question, and it was mentioned earlier, since the county has the Health and Human Services, is this going to be a location that will help our coordinated efforts with Health and Human Services to get these people assistance if they need it? You know, since we'll have them in a concentrated area, that would be my first question for you.
Sure, that's a great question. During this trial, we don't have plans, but we may be able to send people there as far as staff. But I would have to go over that with HHS. However, in the long term, it would be ideal if we could do that if there is going to be a permanent location. So if there is going to be something like that, then we'll work on getting case management folks there to help out, because I think from our experience, those in vehicles, particularly they're sleeping in regular passenger vehicles, not RVs. They tend to work during the day. And we had someone at one of our workshops mention that they work during the day, but they can't afford a place to stay. And then they sleep there at night. It was on 2nd Street at the time. So we know some of those are in the vehicles are what you would call, I don't know, I didn't mean higher functioning or more motivated, I'll say that, to try and get into permanent housing.
All right, and my second question is, I know through the intergovernmental relations where we've talked about some different numbers, the setup cost for this was for the temporary is virtually nothing because it's temporary fencing, temporary porta potties, temporary washing stations. But the numbers to go permanent were roughly, I recall, around $100,000 to stand something up to not know if we're going to be utilizing it or not. That's their numbers, if I remember correctly.
Right, yeah, there were a few different numbers depending on the location, but if it's a location that needs, say, an aggregate base laid, then you need, $60,000 in gravel, and then you need fencing, et cetera. If it's somewhere where you might need paving or drainage, and then you would have additional costs. But again, wherever we look for a permanent location, we're going to try to keep that to a minimum as well. But yeah, I think bare minimum, we were looking at somewhere around $80,000.
Okay. The last of that then, because you're entrusted with the public's money just as the city is, remembering those conversations, in order to wrap our hands around this, would you say that between the city and the county, this was the most efficient use of public funds to help address the issue by taking a trial period at a reduced cost between the city and the county and then moving it forward to the permanent location if it's needed?
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, if hopefully we can find a permanent location that is paved as well, and maybe we'll even reduce costs if we need a permanent location. Ms. Langley and I have spoken about that as well, some different ideas, but of course, that would be brought forward to both the council and the board as well.
Thank you. Any other questions from the
Mr.
council?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
thank you for being here, Mr. Smith.
My pleasure.
Appreciate that. Now, it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that this is a 60-day max, period,
Yeah.
overnight parking.
Yes,
But
sir.
there's no minimum, meaning that if there's zero demand for it, or if it becomes a problem between the city and the county, it gets shut down.
Yeah, so you're right, Mr. Vice Mayor. The board was very specific about cutting it off at the 60 days. So I think, it would behoove us all to look at the results even after just, say, 2 weeks to see how it is and start making plans from there, whether it's to, hey, we don't even need this and let's shut it down early, or, wow, there's more than we thought, or, it will give us an idea of a possible site based upon the number of people using it.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the council?
Through the mayor, this is just general. We are meeting, when are we meeting with Sutter County? I forgot the date. May 16th. So today is the 19th. Am I on the right date? Yeah. That's about a month. So it's around that time frame. Maybe we can revisit, if this becomes the option, to revisit the discussion and see where we're at that meeting. Give us an update. How's it going? What's happening at that particular meeting? To give us a view of this need that is needed for us to be able to move forward with other parts of our homeless initiatives that we've been working on.
Thank you. And if I could expand on that, I talked to our city manager a little bit earlier, and if the council is agreeable to this, I think we all need to be really in tune with it, and it looks like probably the first opportunity to come back once it's functioning will be mid-May, as it's going to take us several weeks to get everything up and running. But I think that we need to be completely engaged as a council, and since this is a trial, that we need to have an update at each and every one of our council meetings on how this project is going, to find out if we need to be pursuing a permanent location or we're done with it because it's not needed or something else. I think we really need to be that engaged with at least an update report at every council meeting during that time period, if the council would so be inclined.
Yeah, through the mayor, I think it would be interesting if that was what you're thinking. If it does get, settled, launched, done, then there would be need to review. I think prior to that, isn't there a group that's already you and Vice Mayor are part of to discussing multiple issues related to homelessness?
You're talking about the intergovernmental.
Yeah, the intermin, yeah.
There's many things we
Yeah,
talk about in
yeah.
that, but
So
this
that
is
could be-
one of them.
That could be a great place to also have a review of how the process is going.
Yeah, no, it will be brought up during the intergovernmental relations, but definitely wanted it each and every one of our meetings, so the full council is fully aware. So is any other questions for Mr. Smith at this time? Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Sheriff Barnes.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay, Mr. Mayor? Yes, sir. Good evening, and also members of the council. So a lot of great things were said. I'll try not to repeat some of those, but there'll probably be some overlapping themes. So I want to go back in time just a little bit. So when I first took office in January of 2019, as many people will recall, we were under an injunction at that time. We could not enforce. And so there's been a lot of great collaborative efforts by the city and the county over the last couple of years, and those were kind of highlighted by Ms. Langley in terms of some of the things we've done about, building shelter space and affordable living. One of the things that came from that was what we call the overnight camping area, which is down near the Rod and Gun Club. And so what that does is it gives us the ability to enforce people that are camping in areas that are not designated, primarily our river bottoms area. And so I think most people know there's been a couple case law decisions that have, further kind of hampered our ability to enforce. And so what we need to do is we need to make sure that there is available bed space and/or that we're providing a place for people to rest their heads. And so the overnight camping was, one of those two prongs that we were able to successfully do. As it was stated, the one thing that is missing is a place to direct people to park overnight in order to close that loop and allow us to be able to enforce in areas where there is no designated parking, some of our business areas, private property, things like that. So just as an example, if you were to go, a year or so ago down to 2nd Street, it was a mess. And, if you remember what that looked like, we put a lot of time and energy in cleaning that up. And it was probably, I think, at one point costing us about $10,000 a month in cleanup expenses. I have no desire to regress in that area. We passed an ordinance that does not allow for parking along there. But regretfully, I cannot enforce that ordinance because I have no place to direct people to go. And so that becomes the major challenge. And as it was stated by Steve, a lot of them want a safe place to go and rest overnight where they don't have to worry about, being victimized. And so that's an important element of this. So we've looked at a couple different locations. Some may recall that the governor at one point said we could have access to state-owned property in Sutter County for that purpose. One of those was the National Guard Armory, which of course is being used for other things. And so that quickly became, a place we could not use. So the other area that is Caltrans-owned property is actually right behind the jail, next to the transmission shop there at 99 and 20. And so we were actually looking at that as an option, but as it was stated, there's some costs that would go into building that particular piece of property up in terms of leveling it out, gravel, things like that. Plus, from a public safety standpoint, I don't know that that's an ideal location. You would have people coming in and out of that location at peak times of traffic, which would cause further congestion in that area. And then because of the traffic, I would have a serious concern about pedestrian traffic walking to convenience stores and other businesses in the area. So from a public safety standpoint, the recommendation to use what was formerly known as the Kmart area seems like a much safer location in terms of overall public safety. My position is I just want a place because I want to be able to do my job and enforce. And so I do recognize that, the gym is there and that's a concern, I would imagine. But I'm also a member at that gym. And I can tell you that at 5 in the morning when I go to the gym, there are always 3 or 4 cars parked in and around that area, specifically along the chain link fence that separates the gym property from the highway. So this would give us a place to direct those people to go to and actually help us clean up some of those areas. And I know that Officer Koski and Officer Deputy Lacan from my department, they do a tremendous job, but they're still kind of hampered by not having this one area to direct people to. It was stated pretty clearly, even in the title of what you said tonight, Mr. Mayor, this is temporary. My board was pretty clear last week that this is expected to be temporary to evaluate whether or not it's worth the time and energy to invest further in this. But I will also say to the community, I don't judge success by how full it is. I judge success on my end by whether or not I have the ability to enforce and do my job. And so there are nights that there are maybe 1 or 2 people at the overnight camping spot. But that's okay, because when they leave in the morning, it's still clean. We haven't expended a lot of resources cleaning it up. And my officers have had the ability to go out and enforce illegal camping in the river bottoms and other areas of the county. So with that, I think everything else has been pretty clearly stated. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Sheriff, I would have one question for you because it's been talked about the Kmart property itself. Currently, how much, and this may be for Officer Koski as well, how much homeless activity are we currently seeing around the Kmart property where there's no security right now?
Sure, and I'll ask Troy to come up, but I can speak that again. Just because of my observations when I go to work out in the morning, routinely in the area of, Food Max and along the Big Five Sporting Goods, there are people sitting there and lined up along the wall there, usually sleeping at night. Ideally, those people should be directed to the overnight camping spot, and I know that Troy has done that and that he's even in some cases provided tents for them to do that. Then additionally, there's usually cars kind of scattered throughout the Kmart parking lot, the gym, the area around Food Max where the deliveries get made. On average, there's 2 to 5 cars there every morning when I go at that time. But specifically as it relates to enforcement, I'd have to refer to Troy on some of the city matters.
So there is a decent amount of folks that do park along that because it is kind of one of the areas that is not residential as we try to push them out of the residences. And then also on the other side of Louise over by the 99-cent store. There's a lot of people that do kind of park in that area, do park in San Brennan Park at night sometimes. And then again, probably our biggest portion is the Home Depot, Lowe's, Kohl's, parking lots, those larger areas where there aren't anyone. So they are parking in those parking lots anyway, and especially in that area.
Okay. The reason I ask is because it's not that they're not there. They're already there with no security, no fencing, no services, meaning toilets or hand washing. But this hopefully will help with the overall area along the highway behind the stores and even scattered through the parking lots. And it would make your job a lot easier, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And yeah, as far as the amount of trash that's the biggest or one of the biggest things that we're dealing with right now is with the businesses and in the city trying to get those areas cleaned. Again, that's an extra burden on businesses that they just don't have right now. They're having a hard time getting employees. So it's hard to have someone go out there that they actually are willing to pick up that trash that's left from those folks. So it'll be easier for us to keep those areas cleaned, reducing the burden on the businesses.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the council? All right, thank you. Ms. Langley, do you have anything else before we bring it back to the council and then move forward? Okay, does the council have any comments or questions before we take it to the public? Okay, we will go out to the public for comments, and I will remind the public this is time for public comment, not time for questions and answers. And with that, we do have one written request, and that is Mr. John Buckland. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Earlier, I heard the insinuation that false information was being distributed around. I want to just clarify for you, there is no false information. The city of Yuba City did not circulate to the businesses this information. They didn't provide the staff report to adjacent businesses, so we took it upon ourselves to do that. So if you'd like to start my time now, I just wanted to clarify that because I'm certain that my letter is what the mayor was referring to. Mr. Mayor, City Council members, I'm John Buckland. I live at 1478 LeGrand Avenue, south end of Yuba City. I also have businesses at 901 and 911 Spiva. Thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight on a serious community issue, homelessness. All of you have campaigned on this issue. Each promised to fix the problem or provide valued input. One of you has 7 years, 3 of you 3+ years, and a new member with 1+ year on this council. Very little has been accomplished. In fact, one might say the problem has gotten worse. I acknowledge the work of code enforcement and members of law enforcement. They have been trying to mitigate the problems that have impacted businesses. But the problem still exists in our community. We might brush this off with excuses like COVID or court decisions. So tonight, in an election year, you introduce a plan to take the homeless in vehicles and place them in a secured area for 12 hours a day as an attempt to answer the problem. I ask each of you as elected representatives of the citizens of our community to explore the desired outcome of your deliberations on this issue. If the outcome fails to meet mitigation objectives and goals, I ask you to reject the resolution. This is not a NIMBY issue, as my employees and I deal with the homeless issue daily. Our business is next to Hands of Hope. This service in its inception was to provide daytime services to women and children. It has now morphed into a 24-hour stop for homeless, where cooking fires burn in doorways, sleeping and biological relief occur daily. This isn't my backyard. This is my front door. In an attempt to find solutions, I present the following questions. What are the current enforcement efforts precluded by court decisions? What court has exempted compliance with vehicle registration, insurance requirements, and safe vehicle requirements, or ordinances related to time parking? What vehicles will be allowed? Motorhomes, car-trailer combinations, pickup trucks, and cars? Once the facility is full, what resources do you have to keep excess campers off of private lots in the surrounding area? How will fire protection at the site be addressed? Fire extinguishers will not put out a motorhome fire. Will cooking and open fires be allowed at the site? Where do the vehicles go at 7 a.m.? Are the occupants able to reserve the next night's stay in that 60-day period? Will the vehicles be required to carry California minimum insurance requirements? Haven't heard that answer yet. The staff report indicates vehicle repairs are to be covered. What level of repair? Who's inspecting these vehicles for safety, such as brakes, suspension, and drivetrain? When are they required to exit? And if they're out of fuel, who will provide those services and funding? Regarding positive and verifiable outcomes, will wraparound services be provided, such as social services, mental health, substance abuse, and domestic violence? All of those occur right out in front of my business. Will medical aid be present? Will the site be deemed alcohol and drug-free? Who will be responsible for hazmat cleanups? Will pets be allowed? Will they have to have a local license? The animals. After witnessing the Sutter County Supervisor's action on this matter, it's apparent that little trust exists between Sutter County Supervisors and the Yuba City Council. Much of this has manifested itself in the last 2 years. Watch the video from that meeting. The proposed location lacks the business-friendly message of this council. If you choose to pursue this experiment, the 9920 location meets your goals without undue impact on surrounding businesses. The ability to objectively answer the questions presented will provide guidance in efforts to truly address the issues of homelessness.
Mr. Buckland, your 5 minutes is up.
Falling short of verifiable goals and objectives is tantamount to placing a Band-Aid on an infection. I understand my time ran out, but sir, you allowed another speaker to go 7 minutes. Thank you very much.
All right. Does anyone else like to speak on this matter? Just, you can go to the podium and state your name. Jeff, you were next. Go ahead, Jeff.
Good evening, Jeff Helm. I reside at 1710 Hastings, Yuba City. My wife and I are both here tonight. We're also the neighbors that was in the circle. So we understand what currently happens in the Kmart parking lot daily. We're affected by who comes and goes every day. So we understand it, our staff understand it, my clients understand it. I still haven't quite decided if I'm in favor or not in favor for this project. I'm still learning of it. As John brought up, I was quite shocked. I think it was last week I received a phone call, asked my thoughts on it. And I was quite taken back. I gave some fast responses to the gentleman who asked me about it. Some stuff was going on. I didn't come to mind till 2 days ago, to another business owner. I've had almost every business owner within that whole area has contacted me to come speak and talk about this. There's not one of your businesses, your neighbors, actually neighbors of the county, are actually, that I'm aware of, are in favor for this. We talked about the pickleball park and all the issues that are going on at San Brandon, and we're gonna move them over. Is any of that drug trade happening from those RVs now just gonna be my neighbor? I mean, most of my items I made notes of because, again, I'm just learning. Was there actually a workshop or a town hall on this already?
Not on this specific item. We had a homeless workshop for the city.
Got it. So if we're going to go affect the actual people, the businesses that are there, and we're going to use taxpayers' money, everybody in this room is going to pay for this, shouldn't we have some say in how it's ran? I mean, I would think the business owners actually, I know my wife and I have a lot of say on what currently happens. I go daily and ask the RVs that currently park in my parking lot right in front, I ask them to vacate. Most of them are usually pretty nice about it. Some aren't. Every one of them leave me a gift every single time. I really don't call the city to come pick it up. That's part of our job. If we're gonna run a business here, it's just part of doing business. We do it every single time. So I'm gonna go through a list of my questions, really, because there wasn't a town hall meeting on this. Why aren't we using, and I don't expect these responses like right now, I'm just gonna read them off and hope to get a response since I'm probably the most affected neighbor to this. Why are we not using one of the numerous sites we already have? We already have sites we've already recommended or talked about. The city, I'm sure today that we don't have the ability to park because it's not paved. Well, the city has the ability to change that rule for a temporary site, I believe. I know I've been able to use temporary sites using parking, so I know the city allows it. So we could probably use one of our current sites. It would probably cost less because we already have people there. We already have bathroom facilities there. Oh, darn.
Mr. Helms, if you can wrap up in just another
no
minute,
problem.
that'd be great.
First, one of the big questions, what happens afterwards? At 7 a.m., are they allowed just to go right outside the gate and they just park and come say hello to me? If there's not a workshop, I would recommend you at least pause this vote tonight to get a workshop because I think we have some good advice. I think John brought up a lot of great items that should be answered. Yeah, I have others, but thank you.
Jeff, do you have your questions written down there?
Yeah,
Would you like to bring them down and
what I'd rather do is if I could email them.
That would be perfect.
I request that you guys at least pause it for a day so that you do have some town hall input.
If you can email those questions, that'd be great. Do we have someone else that would like to speak?
Hi, my name is Katie Gutierrez, and I am the owner of Bargain World Thrift Store, which is on 860 Gray Avenue, right on the property that's owned by the county. And I've just learned of this yesterday when this notice was dropped off, and I am thankful that I've learned of it so I could be here today because it is a great concern to me as I continue to hear over and over tonight that the goal of this is to remove these vehicles from parking spaces of businesses. And I am a business. I am a small business. And I heard how important that we are, that actually was acknowledged today. And you're bringing all of these cars to the parking lot where we have our business there. We have struggled a lot with being able to control this. We have had homeless people going and vandalizing our merchandise in the back of our store where they have broke locks, where they have gone into our containers, slept in our containers. One incident, they actually turned our garbage can on fire and threw it on our loading dock. So all these things of vandalism are or have gone on. We have worked hard to stop this. My husband as well is here, and going around in the middle of the night and getting rid of these people that are there not with good intentions. I am very aware of the population that is out there that is suffering from domestic violence or that is actually not on drugs and really does need a place. So again, I am torn between this decision. I believe this program is good, but still, I don't believe we should carry the burden of having it in our parking space. I also believe that, or my concern is that these vehicles, I know that they will be a security guard there from 7 to 7, which is great because that's a great idea. It needs to have a security guard there. However, what is going to happen after the security guard leaves? I have a concern that this is going to open the door to homeless that are actually on drugs, that are actually not needing these type of programs, but are just going to have that door open to thinking this is a place we can hang out throughout the day. We have a thrift store. We do have people going in and stealing of this community. So that is another concern. We've had somebody that stood in our door for 40 minutes and did not let our customers go in our store. And we did call police later. I thank them that they did arrive. However, we had managed 40 minutes later to get rid of this person. This type of community will bring fear to our customers, and we will lose clientele is my fear. So I ask you today to consider, if we are so important to the community as small businesses, consider that we are here. We are right next to the parking space. Also, the Yuba Buffet is here, and we believe that this will be of great harm to us. Thank you for listening today.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make a comment?
My name is Dr. Jason Funk. I own the property and work at 899 Gray Avenue, directly across the street. I live at 683 B Stewart Road here in Yuba City. Being at that location, we've been there since the mid-'80s. I've watched as this was my father's business and the changes he had to take on. The number of changes I've had to take on to deal with homeless, vandalism through the night, the refuse and the human waste that I have to remove from my property is so much more now that my dad is so excited that he's retired because he doesn't have to deal with it. I ask you, how many of you keep a shovel at your business that's used weekly or monthly to scoop up human waste? How many of you have to worry about your employees because they show up and they have to worry about getting the person sleeping across their front door, to the point that I had to go and invest recently in a gate across the front of my office? I had people rip letters off the front of my building. Now, the front of that building abuts Gray Avenue. That wasn't good enough. They came back a couple weeks later and ripped more letters off. They use those letters to climb over a 6-foot brick wall that has a gate with a lock and use those letters to beat on my air conditioner system. You talk about the homeless problems. In your workshop, you talk about how the homeless stay in a central area or near where they sleep and they learn to survive in that area. I see this as a magnet, drawing homeless to an area right next to the majority, if not all, small businesses in that area. There are very few large corporate commercial businesses. So it's all the small business owners that there's probably a dozen of us here tonight that we're bearing the burden. You talk about supporting small business, but this is the way you support us, putting more problems on our backs as we're trying to recover from everything that's happened in these last couple of years and dealing with the problems. So I ask, what happens to car number 18 if you get to that point, and 19 and 20? What happens if that's an individual from another community that drives down here because they heard of the safe parking lot in Yuba City? Do those people get to stay? Are we now inviting people from other communities, be it across the river, from Oroville, from Chico, Sacramento, from Oakland, that those people have moved into your tent camp on 2nd Street? There's people that have moved from other states because they hear how great it is in California. They get paid to be homeless here. Are we creating a magnet to draw these people to Yuba City? how are you going to filter out who gets to go into the safe parking lot? Why don't we integrate? I at first was very against this. I took time to go and research programs that are successful and unsuccessful. Cities that just throw the parking lot out there and just open it up have failed. Those are cities like San Francisco. Cities like LA and Seattle, who had an interview or application process, they don't announce that there's just a free parking space, but they say, go through this application process. Let us qualify you to get you into this parking lot. They have succeeded. I think you need to consider working with another organization who would handle who is allowed to stay at this parking lot, not just make it a first come, first serve. Because what if the cars start lining up at 6, at 5, at 4, at 3 in the afternoon because they want to be that first person or within those first 17 to get in there? How do you deal with the excess cars, the excess people, if you get to that point? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Any other comments from the public? How about online?
So online, we do have one comment from Patricia Buckland. Are the people locked into the camping site once they come in at night? Are they able to wander around the area once their campers are parked?
All right, thank you. Any other comments coming in? Just giving it one more second.
So I don't have any online at this point, but I did receive 3 emails this afternoon.
Okay,
I can go ahead and read those for you.
thank you.
A couple of them are quite lengthy, so bear with me. The first came through from Mike Dihel from Beeler Tractor. He says, I'm concerned about item 16 on the agenda for the council meeting tonight. As a business owner very close to the old Kmart building, I wonder if this site in the middle of Yuba City is the best location for a 60-day trial of overnight vehicle parking area. We already have problems in this area with trash and people coming onto our property and vandalizing equipment and vehicles. We've had enough problems from people at the skateboard park and Sam Brannan Park in this area. Why would you want to bring more problems to the area? I think the city and the county should come up with another site for this trial. If you wish to discuss this matter further, please feel free to reach me on my cell phone, and I have a phone number for you if you'd like to do that. The next email came from Jessica Jackson. My name is Jessica Jackson. I'm a Yuba City resident, and my husband and I are local business owners. We strongly oppose the city-funded KOA-style campground proposed. While I respect the manager's desire to address this issue of camping around the city, I believe the proposed solution is based on the wrong premise, is inconsiderate of all business owners, and will bring out no benefits, only disadvantages, ultimately not solving for the concerns that the manager stated to be concerned about. The proposal states the desire to address the vehicle camping because of a nuisance to business and residents. But I argue that the solution proposed is an exceptional vexation for all business owners and residents. All business owners know of the process of permits, permission, and codes we have to acquire for our economy benefiting businesses, so for the city to just decree this without asking for surrounding business permission is hypocritical at best. All local businesses will be offended by this precedence, believing that if the city will make these decisions without considering at least the surrounding businesses, they are willing to do it to any business in town. We, for one, are outraged that this would be put behind Northside Fitness, especially without their permission. In addition, our business is 2 blocks from there and will be negatively impacted. The city would be negligent to not consider our input while not even solving the proposed concern for businesses and residents. Creating a concentrated group of travelers and vagabonds in the city center will bring about disadvantages and unintended consequences. And then there's a numbered list, bulleted list here. So number 1 and number 2 did not come through. So I'll skip to number 3. Businesses will be directly affected. Customers don't want to patronize places with many vagabonds. Number 4, We have already seen apprehensiveness rising in this exact area as more people have been camping in this particular area. Please don't exacerbate the problem. The increase in traffic in that area would make surrounding blocks undesirable. Number 5, the adjacent gym has hours that would definitely overlap with operation hours, resulting in loss of customers. We are members here and well aware of how the area is now. The amount of trash is impossible to anticipate, but guaranteed to be a problem. This will create a trashy area, unnecessary cleaning fees, and safety hazards. The impacts will at least amount to an increase in spending on extra cleaning and an eyesore from our main highway. Considering the fact that most of these people are not from our local area, offering this free service will result in an increase in vagabond travelers to our town, increasing our problems we already have. Considering the fact that most living on the street have drug addiction problems, creating a place for many to gather in one place will create an increased risk of drug-related accidents such as fires, which is a common occurrence at drug houses, looking to the recent Levy fire and building in Olivehurst. Lastly, as taxpayers, we believe this is a mismanagement of public funds since it will not benefit our local community. $23,000 is a lot of money with no good to show for it. If there was a benefit to this service, it should have to be proven with evidence before a trial run. This does not give businesses and residents any benefits. Many areas in town will still have campers parking near them while creating bigger problems for this area. We ask the city to not adopt this resolution. And she's from Neutral One, Jessica Jackson. Okay, last email, third email comes from Jennifer Harris. The Kmart parking lot has long time been an eyesore for many people, including myself. For years, I have heard things were going to be done with this area, and all of them have been great ideas until I heard about turning this area into an overnight parking for the homeless. Northside Fitness is my gym, my home away from home. I spend a lot of time there working and working out. The homeless in this area have always been an issue and on multiple occasions have entered into the facility and these encounters have been negative. Multiple times the police have been called and a handful of times lives have been threatened. This is not something that I would care to deal with on a more regular basis. Most of my clients come in before work, and this means most of my day is done before 7 a.m. A majority of my clients are over the age of 70 and or women, and I am concerned for their safety. This will definitely make an impact on my job. I am commission-based, and when I don't have clients, I don't make money. It's been such a struggle coming back from COVID, and this will break me. I have 2 young babies / toddlers, and I bring them to the club while I work and work out, and I will not be bringing them if this overnight parking is approved. I cannot stress enough how this will negatively impact my life, from loss of clients, daycare, money, job. The downward spiral is something that I would not care to have to deal with. Please take into consideration the amount of lives you will be negatively impacting with this allowance of overnight parking. This overnight parking will end up being a place where the homeless take over, and there will be nothing anyone can do about it once they've established this is a place to congregate. And that's all I have. Thank you.
More comments, okay. I apologize, Rosalie Funk. Okay, I apologize, I had it here and just found it, so. All right, hearing no further comments, I bring it back to the council for further discussion and possible action.
Through the mayor,
Yes, sir.
when was this going to open?
So in talking to the county, we are looking at most likely mid-May. And Steve, please correct me if I'm wrong in that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, this subject homeless issue is a very challenging discussion for many of us. Working in the homeless arena for several years, almost 15-plus years, volunteering a lot of time. I think most of, in the room, I would kind of guess that a lot of people in this room probably have helped or supported those who have been challenged by the homelessness. I truly appreciate the input from the local businesses. I think that your statements are impactful, clearly, as we celebrate small businesses, and then our, oversight of not hearing you would be inappropriate. I think as one of five, I'll say it from that perspective, it is really challenging as a council member to always, how do we engage community in the discussion and not feel as communities being flat-footed in the discussion, caught off guard, like I didn't know, or I didn't realize this was happening. And, having been part of in community in multiple dimensions, as an elected official, as a business.
Could you say that again?
Oh,
I'm having trouble hearing you.
well, that was not planned and really well put together there, Siri. That, having a business, being part of the community, volunteering, working here for many years, how do we find the right places to establish these things that does not cause discomfort to segments of our community? It really becomes a challenge as making these decisions. And in March, on the 29th, we held a very lengthy overview of all the homeless things that our city has completed or working on. And I'll be honest, I was very disappointed. Not very many community members showed up. It wasn't hardly attended. I don't know what the answer is to have people be well in advance given a notice to know that these things are occurring. If you have the secret answer to when it's going to happen in your community, then you may show up. People do that, and I've seen it. And it's appropriate, and it's right to do that. I just having a challenging time. How do we then help decrease the number of homeless community members? Because what is happening in your business and what is happening at people's residence or public or private areas is not helping. It's not, I can't turn a blind eye to say that it's not happening. It's happening. But how do we solve this? As a community, as a business, how do we find ways to remove those things that you have to deal with on a daily basis that is just offensive and inappropriate? And our law enforcement, these kinds of it seems very minimal, but it's part of the bigger picture to try to provide them some opportunity to meet some enforcement code issues or enforcement issues. I'm asking you as a community, how do we solve this together? Because I'm hearing that we're not doing a very good job. And I'll take responsibility for that part. But also, I, as one of five here, can't do this alone. Business, faith-based, residents, all of you, we need you at the table. Not only when we're trying to show you what we're doing, but not only when we're doing it in a wrong and appropriate way. I need your help. How do we solve this? Because the questions are greater than the solutions. Help us solve this issue. How can we do this together? Because boy, I can come up with a list of 100 questions and throw them right back, and guess what? We're not getting to the solutions. Figure out, we know the problem, let's get to those solutions.
Through the mayor.
Yes, sir.
This is a complicated issue. We all know this. But I will tell you that the implication that this council hasn't done anything about it is false. And that it's somehow in its election year is completely irrelevant. This affects everybody, everyone in this community. I think the sheriff said it the best. Provide law enforcement with that tool. Let's close that loop. And this is a solution that we came forward with. It's temporary. It's 60 days. It's got no minimum. If there's no need for it, we shut it down. If it gets out of control, we shut it down. But let's close that loop. Let's do what we promised when we were going door to door.
Councilmember Harris. Yes,
All
sir.
right, thank you. A very, very complicated topic. There are as many reasons why someone is homeless as there is homeless people. And I tell you what, it's so complicated. This is a community issue, and it's not necessarily a, yes, it is trash, it's vandalism, it's a lot of that, but it's a human issue. These are people who are human beings. They found themselves in a situation, yes, maybe sometimes by their own doing. However, we are obligated, and I think we find ourselves in a spot to partner with our friends at the county to do something. How many times have we heard on so many other issues, nobody is doing anything? Well, I tell you what, everybody up here and at the county is trying to do as best we can. There is no magic bullet, none. We asking you to not what if the issues all the way until eternity. And the insinuation is if we don't have the perfect answer, that suddenly the whole plan is invalid. Not true. We are trying to do something. Yes, we recognize that we're going to call on some of you as partners in this community and business owners to perhaps absorb some of the impact. Maybe. I don't necessarily think that for the RVs or these folks are necessarily going to bring all that with them any more than they already have. We have people parking all over the city. Now we're going to give these folks in uniform the tools to do their job that we expect them to do, that they want to do, but they're bound by certain laws that they have to follow. So we want to give them the tools to do what they can for all of us, for our community. So consider yes, we're asking you to be our partner and work with us shoulder to shoulder. We will do the best we can to minimize any impact that you may experience. But remember, this is a human issue. We're asking you to look beyond the horizon, not just a trash or whatnot. What's our ultimate goal here? Our intent is to try to do what we can to resolve this issue, and so we will all have as clean and safe city as possible. But it's going to take some sacrifice, some work on all of our parts, okay? There is no perfect location, no matter where we picked. We picked another location, we'll have different faces in here saying the same thing. We're asking you, this location has been identified. We're asking you to step up with us and let's work through this problem, this issue together. And it is temporary, okay? If we do find a legitimate need, we will find a better location and then go from there. We don't know yet. There's a lot of things that are not answered. We can what if it to death again. We just don't have those answers. Some of them will work themselves out as we go through this. But let's do it, please, together and understand that these are people we're dealing with. Try to do the best you can, don't get in trouble or anything. But I found that a lot of times if you talk with them, they'll listen and they'll understand. However, not necessarily, but my point is, just work with us, please, and try to. If you feel the need to talk to them, be respectful, because I guarantee you get confrontational, it's gonna backfire on you. But I will be voting in support of this for the reasons I've stated. However, I do not want anyone to. Excuse me. I do not want anyone to think that we have not heard you, we do not empathize with you, we do not understand, or do not care about the potential impacts, okay? We hear that, but we have to make a decision here. We have to do something to help these guys do their job with the long-term effects intent in mind, so.
Right, that brings it back to me.
You skipped me.
Oh, did I skip you?
Yes, you sure did.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Then go ahead, sir.
I'll make mine kind of short and sweet. To the business owners out there, I understand and completely get where you're coming from. As a former president of a company that operated 9 stores in 9 different cities who had to deal with 8 of those cities with a homeless problem, I understand the challenges. I understand having to clean up feces. I understand having to pick up shopping carts full of crap, and certainly is part of the consideration when I look at the potential of approving this particular project. I get that. I am absolutely confident that as a trial, if we find anything that is negatively impacting business, we will commit to pivot and do something different. 100%. That's the conversations I've had with our staff. That's conversations that I trust that the county feels the same. I know that this is one of those opportunities to take a problem, a known problem, put it in a place, and I get there's been some really good questions tonight, which is why I asked, when do we plan to implement those? I think we owe some folks some questions, I really do, or answers to those questions. But I also think that we also need to arm the sheriff and the police department with the things they need to do to deal with this problem of folks camping and parking and doing the things that are negatively impacting our community. I hope that if you find there's an issue, I'm easily accessible. And please, if you feel like your business is being affected or there's personal harm, then I think we need to be immediately notified. And if you want to come up and get my cell phone number, I'll be happy to give it to you. And I know Sheriff Barnes, and I know Chief Baker, and I know the men and women of their departments, and I know they have public safety as one of their primary missions. And if this becomes an issue, I guarantee you, to the extent that I'm able, that we will deal with it swiftly. And with that, I'm going to share that this is something that it's a tough decision, and it's a tough one, trust me, but I do think that this is something that we need to trial. And if it fails, then we quickly kill it. But if it works, then we also pivot and put it someplace else. And that's the goal of the program, is to see what we actually have out there and see if this works. Because I, like many, feel like this homeless thing just continues to be a huge burden on our community. And we have to start someplace. And this is one of those places. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Now it's back to me. I apologize for overlooking you there. Where do we begin with this? First of all, this is not a political football as it would be played out to be. It has nothing to do with the silly season, as I call it. This is a community problem. And Councilwoman Espandola, summarized what we talked about in the first workshop. And it's really, we're going through workshops to figure out where all the synergies are. The second one will be with our county partners. The third, you guys are actually a part of, because it's our partners in the community, which isn't just Hands of Hope. It's not, Habitat. It's businesses. It's churches. We got to figure out how we're all interacting with the homeless issue that we have in our community. It didn't just crop up 3 years ago, 4 years ago. It's been here for a decade or more. It's continued to grow. And that's part of the reason that, I use the words that it's time we get real with ourselves, because we've had, too much excitement over helping a few people here and a few people there. And at the same time, it's been getting worse for a decade. So it has been a problem that has perplexed not only this council, but councils prior to us. And as Mark said, I'm a business owner as well. And I've had to deal with the exact same issues over at my office. I had to go in and put in a far more elaborate security system at my office because of the homeless issues. Staff scared to go out to their cars, This is a real community issue, camping on the doorstep. Everything that we're talking about here tonight is this overwhelming issue that has been thrust upon us by the courts, by the state, and ultimately just by humanity. You know, we've got those that need help, that we need to get them help. We've got those that don't want help, and we need to figure out what we're going to do with them, because those are the ones that are negatively impacting. And I just call it as it is, okay? I feel for all of you guys right there around Gray Avenue for the simple fact, you know, Jeff, I've been up and down 99 and seen the people sleeping right there along the Caltrans fence and thought, oh my God, how do we get them out of there? You know, the Neutral One, I hit that store and they're all over there. But those people aren't the ones that this program is about, because that's the camping people that they're just throwing up tents and stuff. This is the people that are parking everywhere. If you go by the Lowe's parking lot, the Walmart parking lot, Home Depot parking lot, the Staples parking lot, I mean, you get parking lot after parking lot. Even at the end of Gray Avenue, where it dead ends, there's cars that park there. I've heard from other residents that live just off of Bridge Street, to where people are just pulling up and they're parking either, you know, on their property or on the street, and they're making huge messes. This is the part we're talking about. We have to deal with the others as well. But ultimately, we're trying to figure out how to give these men and women in uniform the tools that they need to be able to fix things and help this community. When you look at what the homeless are attracted to, you know, they are attracted to vacant lots. They're attracted to empty buildings. They're attracted to places that people are going to leave them alone. And let's think about this for a second. And I don't mean this as any negative with the county, so please, but Kmart parking lot currently is pretty much a vacant building and a vacant parking lot with no security, other than our law enforcement and sheriffs for the most part. We're talking vehicles and we're talking on-site security. And so that should help clean up the area in itself. And I reached out to Mike, I think it's a Dilly, anyway, Beeler Tractor. I talked to him earlier because I got several emails, reached out. He actually took my call and we talked about it. And he shared with me the stuff that's going on already. And so, Jeff, I know you have to be experiencing some of the similar things with vandalism and everything else there at your place. If we do nothing, those problems are still there. If we do this, maybe by just having on-site security there at night, might save a few things of vandalism, a few fires, might drive people in. It might stop the issues behind the Kmart building with your business as well. But we need your help and we need to know what's going on. I'd like to get with both of you guys tonight afterwards. I think, Jeff, you already have my number, but I want to make sure you guys have that. We need to know. That's the reason I said at every council meeting, we need an update, because we need to know what the heck is going on, because this is a trial. If it doesn't work, let's pull the plug. If it has a good impact, then here's one other possibility, you know, and this is my own thoughts in this, but what I've seen with the homeless population is they choose the path of least resistance. So if you're making them go into a parking area at night, and you're making them go out of a parking area at night or in the morning and then back in at night, just maybe they might say enough with Yuba City, and they might go back to Sacramento or San Francisco or San Jose or wherever the heck it was they came from. You know? Other possible wins, we might be able to get them services if they need it, because we do have a wide variety of people from domestic violence and everything else that need that. We might actually be able to curtail some of the drug overdoses going on in the homeless population. It's not perfect, but we need to work together and try to figure out something, because it's impacting every business, from health clubs to financial services to tractor businesses. Every business is impacted. And it literally, I mean, it's atrocious, and it breaks my heart to ride through some of these these streets and see what happens. I see Mr. Cassidy in the back there. And John, I'm just going to share what you shared with your experience up in Chico. And I don't want to see that happen here. So we've got to try to wrap our heads around this. John shared with me many times about, their ATMs being vandalized in Chico, drug paraphernalia all over, feces all over. I believe you actually had one of your employees attacked. Am I correct? That's unacceptable. So what we're trying to do is figure out a way that we can solve this problem as a community. And our heart goes out. And but at the same time, we have to address this. So instead of looking at just all the negatives, let's look at some potential positives as well. And because we don't know what we're going to get. But I definitely want to stay engaged with the businesses that are right there adjacent, because you're not a block away, you're feet away. And I want to know, and I'm sure the council does, how this impacts you guys and Beeler Tractor over there, because you're directly affected. Hopefully it will be positive. So, with that, it's the county's property, and, we are coming alongside them to partner. And, if this moves forward for a temporary, we've got other sites that we've looked at that if this is needed, that we'll select one and figure it out that is nowhere near the Kmart building, okay? But, we gotta do something, because doing nothing is being as complacent as we were 2 years ago, 10 years ago. We have to do something. So with that, I will bring it back to the council for whatever the council's pleasure is.
Through the mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the establishment of a 60-day trial program to provide an overnight vehicle parking area for homeless individuals and families at county-owned property located at 850 Gray Avenue in Yuba City.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Councilmember Harris. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and so we will be partnering with the county. But at the same time, I want to make sure that our businesses have a direct line of feedback. All of my information can be found, as well as the council's, on our website, so feel free to contact us. And Ms. Langley has disappeared already. As this goes forward, we will definitely want to make sure that if there's issues, there is a direct number, and I see the chief back there now. If there's an issue at the area in an evening, non-emergency dispatch might be the best number to call, unless it's a true emergency.
Yes, the
Okay.
822-4660 number.
530-822-4660. So, we will definitely be in contact with each and every one of you. So, all right. We'll move to agenda item 10. Community sponsorship request. Those will be presented this evening by Mr. George Barlow, our management analyst. Mr. Barlow, you have the floor.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
item A, I need to recuse myself as I'm a member of the board of that
All right.
organization.
We'll come get you shortly. So, Mr. Barlow, once the room gets back down a little quieter, if you will handle just 10A, that way we can bring Councilmember Baumgarten back for 10B. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Again, my name is George Barlow, management analyst here at the city. Today I bring forward community sponsorships, which meets the overarching strategic goal of quality of life. City sponsorships reflect support of specific programs or events by an organization. The intent is that the public will receive some intrinsic cultural, economic, educational, or entertainment value from the program or event. On January 18, 2022, Council adopted an amended community sponsorship policy. The policy states that staff will bring new monetary sponsorships requests to council each January, April, July, October. If there's a special request in between those months, it may also be brought forward to council. The following sponsorship request is from Trauma Intervention Program, TIP, TIP, a monetary sponsorship request from the Trauma Intervention Program of $5,000 for the support of survivors of emergencies and tragedies. The Yuba-Sutter chapter of TIP was founded in 1994. There are currently 35 responders serving 2 counties. 1,250 square miles they cover, and 170,000 residents. TIP serves all 35 emergency agencies and Adventist Hospital in their area. TIP provides immediate emotional and practical support to survivors of tragedy. Local residents are trained to be TIP responders and are available on a 24/7, 365 schedule. To assist law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, deputy coroners, and hospital personnel. Last year, TIP responded to 210 calls for service in Yuba City. TIP people respond to support survivors of all types of tragedy, including sudden deaths, suicides, homicides, all types of accidents, drownings, victims of crime, structure fires, and overdoses. TIP also supports travelers when tragedy occurs in the Yuba-Sutter area and are far from home. Survivors of tragedies get high level of care in the Yuba-Sutter counties because of TIP and their involvement. TIP contributes approximately 40,000 hours a year, or nearly $1 million in labor to the community. TIP, on scene, lowers the stress level of emergency workers and helps them return to service. So with that, the impact, the fiscal impact would be $5,000 on this item. In our community contributions, we have budgeted, and we still have $6,148 available. So staff's recommendation, item A, is adopt a resolution to approve a monetary sponsorship request from the Trauma Intervention Program, TIP, of $5,000 for the support to survivors of emergencies and tragedies. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Barlow. Any questions from the council? Hearing none. Any questions, or I should say, any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Any online?
No public comment.
And I will bring it back to council for action.
Through the mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I move to adopt the resolution to approve the monetary sponsorship request for the trauma tip of $5,000 for the support of survivors of emergency and tragedies.
Second?
I have a motion by Councilmember Espandola and a second by the Vice Mayor Kirchner. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. If we could get Councilmember Boomgarden.
Through the mayor, I have to recuse myself for item B.
All right. All right. So Councilwoman Espandola recused herself for item 10B. Mr. Barlow, you have the floor again.
Thank you, sir. So the second community sponsorship request is from the Alliance for Hispanic Advancement, AHA, a monetary sponsorship request from the Alliance for Hispanic Advancement, AHA, of up to $25,000 to advance Hispanic heritage in our local communities through community action, educational enhancement, and economic development. AHA has over 30 years of local leadership, providing multiple services to the Yuba-Sutter, Yuba City Hispanic heritage community and business owners. AHA shares the same quality of life priority as the city does. AHA improves our Hispanic community to foster pride and commitment to contributing back to our city. AHA is a well-respected and recognized nonprofit in the Yuba-Sutter region. These funds would help develop and continue the services and programs that include education, community involvement, and business economics. And tonight we have with us Margaret Fernandez from AHA, area manager, and Vera is the president of AHA. And if you have any questions, they're available. The physical impact would be up to $25,000, and staff's recommendation is adopt a resolution to approve a monetary sponsorship request from the Alliance for Hispanic Advancement, AHA, for up to $25,000 to advance Hispanic heritage in our local communities through community action, educational enhancement, and economic development. And if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Barlow. Any questions from the council or comments?
A question, if I may.
Yes, sir.
George, or is anybody aware of what we've given in the past?
To AHA?
Yes.
We have not.
We have not,
As
okay.
a community sponsorship.
And the $25,000 ask, in theory, unless we make some adjustments, would become from the same pool to which we just gave 5,000 of the little over 6,000 that's in there.
That is correct. Now with the 5,000 in that specific account, we would have left $1,148.
All right.
If I could just note, though, however, council could have the opportunity, if you wanted to consider it as part of the fiscal year 22-23 budget, since we have not adopted that yet.
Yes, thank you very much.
Comment, sir.
Yeah, just, I think, thanks for pointing out we haven't given AHA its time. I guess it's just the amount. Obviously, 25,000 is a big amount, a big ask. Is there an amendment to that by any chance?
Well, like the request states, it's up to 25,000.
Okay.
We're not going to not accept anything that you are willing to give.
Sure.
But if I may,
Please.
I can explain what this is all going to cover or why we're asking for such an amount. As he has stated, the Alliance has been established for 30 years. And over the years, we've always stuck to our mission, which is education or enhancement in the education, community involvement, and economic development. So we had a Business and Economic Development Committee about 15 years ago, which eventually evolved into the North Valley Hispanic Chamber. I don't know if you recall. And we did have challenges in that, which all came down to staffing, having the funds to develop our capacity to acquire more members and more active members. So we have just relaunched that committee earlier this month, and we have established quite a few partnerships over the years. We are partners with the Yuba-Sutter Chamber of Commerce, which was great enough to introduce us to the California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which we are now a member of. And they were a big part of this relaunch because they have all these services they can provide Hispanic businesses. So let me just give you a little statistics. So we got requested a report from the Yuba-Sutter Economic Development Corporation, which we are also partners with. And we had asked them, how many Hispanic business owners are in the Yuba-Sutter area? It came out to close to 600, and of those 600 businesses, 62% are in the Yuba City area. And a lot of these services are, businesses, they were created because they were good at something. And so they just started offering their goods and their services. But some of them didn't have like the business acumen or at least the training to improve their business or to increase their business. So by having this Business Economic Committee, we plan on providing these services, and which the California Hispanic Chamber will offer for free. But this $25,000 we thought would also include additional services like guest speakers, supplies, tools, things that some of the business owners may need that they don't have, purchasing apps or programs that they can be better at their finances. We did a quick needs assessment at our meeting that we had earlier this month, and the top 3 needs that they have, number 1 is financial support, and that's anything from how to read a fiscal report or how to manage your finances. The second area was marketing, advertising, sales, on how to get more attention to their business. And lastly, it was business expansion. And that's something we all encourage, is business expansion. Some of them have one shop now, but they really have the desire to open up a second shop. How do I do that? So the other thing with the $25,000 or up to $25,000 is perhaps hiring staff that will take care of that will follow up with these businesses, that will offer some support to them who may not have that because it's just a 1-man or a 3-man shop or business. We are, I don't know if you know the statistics, but in the Yuba-Sutter area, the Hispanic community represents over 34% of the community. And I feel that that particular demographic has not been addressed or hasn't been assisted. And we, the Alliance for Hispanic Advancement, as part of our mission, wants to be a big part of that. And we would love to have the city of Yuba City partnering with us on this. And I think that's the majority I want to get across, unless you have some questions or Vera has something she wishes to add. Vera, by the way, Vera Carrera, she is our current president.
Thanks. Is Vera going to speak?
Yeah, I'm just going to say I really appreciate how much the city has acknowledged us through the years. And I hope we continue a good relationship with the city as well as the county. We are so gratified that we can now be able to offer certain things that we haven't been before. Our 30 years has been struggle because I consider it a ma and pa nonprofit. We're not a big organization that belongs to other things. So we have created this, and through the help of the Chamber and the North Valley Hispanic business, I know we can expand and grow. And this is what we want to see, and we want to see all cultures help. And anybody can join in on this with us. And thank you so much.
I have a couple questions for staff. This might be a Diana and or a Ben. You already knew that, didn't you? So, looking at pots of money, and I know that CDBG, I know you were in that process already. Is that an avenue that might be available for funding for this?
I think so. And so right now, we've received some applications. It's technically not closed until we bring it forward to council and have that recommendation brought forward. We'll have to definitely be happy to work with her team and kind of vet what she's offering in the scope, because with the community development block grant, it sounds like there's some key items that ties into what the funds are for, but also we have to look at how that ties into a low income to the minority and how we focus those funds. And so I think there is a potential for that, and we probably just need to vet it, and that door's, I think, still open as long as council's willing to consider it.
If I can say one more thing, we are working with the EDC for low-income businesses also. They've asked us to assist them on certain things, so we are working with them. We do have a list of low-income businesses. We're first going to start at Yuba County and then come on over to Sutter County for that.
Yeah, until we make comments. Yeah, that's all the questions.
Okay. All right. Then we will go to public comments. Any comments from the public? Any online?
Thank you.
No public comment.
Okay, bring it back to the council for potential questions and actions. Councilman Harris?
Yes, a lot of the stuff that, Vera, you guys mentioned, it's the buzzword is kind of an overlap, in my impression, with the chamber. Do you work closely with the chamber, any businesses, members of that?
We found through talking with Marty and Oscar, who's the California Hispanic business, that it would work better if we worked with the California Hispanic business. But we certainly will collaborate with Marty on the chamber if it needs to.
Okay, thank you. And then another question, do you have a budget, an annual budget that you put together every year?
This is really our first year of really being able to be accessible with the budget. And I think we did put a budget of at least $8,000 for, or was it 5,000 or 8,000?
And you're referring to no grants or anything, correct?
Correct. For the business.
Oh, yes,
Which one?
8,000.
8,000.
Okay, like operating costs and all that for a year is 8,000?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Vice Mayor, do you have any questions? Councilmember Baumgarten?
I'm sorry, just can I add to that?
Yes, please.
We may have budgeted $8,000, but those $8,000 are all based on fundraising. Matter of fact, for the last 30 years, we've sustained ourselves from fundraising, and I'm talking getting our hands dirty, co-sponsoring events like the Taco Festival that's coming up. We don't make big bet money off of these things, but we do get some funds. So we have to put a budget in there, but the plan is also we have to do the fundraising, which is why now we're asking for the monetary sponsorship from the city, is because it gets tiring to all of us get our hands dirty and up to the elbows just to make $1,000 or $2,000. So, and also with the development or the relaunching of the Business and Economic Development Committee, there may be some fundraising opportunities there as well.
All right, thank you.
Baumgarten?
Yeah, so I think that listening to Mr. Barlow, there's $1,000 available now.
$1,148.
Okay, 1,148, we're doing better. And we have the potential for them to actually tap into a different revenue source with the CDBG funds. And then we're going to circle back with a budget with a fiscal year begin in July 1 with a whole new set of requests, of which the Alliance could potentially, if the CDBG thing doesn't work for them, could potentially reapply. And then we have a full pot of money at that particular point in time.
Yes, sir.
Just for the council's consideration.
All right, thank you. Listening to you speak, just like Councilman Harris, there's a lot of overlap. It almost sounds like many things you're trying to reinvent the wheel. And so the question that comes to my mind is, why are we reinventing the wheel? Because, Margaret, we sat on the EDC together. We already know about all those programs. The chamber's continually putting things on, from how to run your business, marketing, all these types of things. Even the EDC will train you on how to, do financials and read your financials and understand. So it seems like part of what you need to do is really strengthening the partnerships that are here locally, because the resources are already there. Looking further, up to 25,000, our entire budget for a year to everybody in the community is only 20K. That was what was set aside this year. We tried to budget it out about 5,000 a quarter. So to give, large amounts by any mean, 5,000 is about the top. It's usually more around 1,000, 2,000, 2,500. That's more realistic. I think going through the CBDG process would be a good step for you guys, because it's not only a bigger pot of money, but it also will help you as you begin to grow and formulate budgets and look at your expenditures and do all that, because I do not know all the ins and outs of the reporting, but Mr. Moody can tell you there's reporting and stuff that has to go back to know it's done certain ways. But I think, as you said, Councilmember Baumgarten, that's a great opportunity there. So I would like to steer you towards that myself, because I think what you're doing is commendable. There's a segment of our society and community that needs that help, that may not reach out to Marnie and the chamber for whatever reason, but you need to be that conduit. My suggestion, though, is don't reinvent the wheel. Just be that conduit to get to the resources that are already here. Because in the end, if you're reinventing, we're going to waste a lot of money that could have gone to those businesses that need it, trying to reinvent the wheel. So let's try to get everybody partnered up, whether it's the state, whether it's the chamber, the EDC, leverage those resources. So I like where you're thinking, and so I will bring it back to the council for whatever action.
I'll make a motion to, looking here at to adopt a resolution to approve a monetary sponsorship request for the Alliance for Hispanic Advancement of $1,148.00 to advance the Hispanic heritage in our local communities through community action, educational enhancement, and economic development, with the sidebar of, I think we should need to reach out and see if we can work with them on potential CDBG application.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Baumgarten, a second by Vice Mayor Kirchner. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. So ladies, you have your first 1,100, and look forward to working with you with CDBG.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, through the mayor, I have a side note. Just for next month, I'll be bringing $10,500 requests, separate line item, not this line item, on the summer stroll from the DBA.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. George, thank you for all the work you do. Appreciate it. All right, let's move to agenda item 11. Welcome back. And you need to be excused, correct?
I have a quick question, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
George, real quick before we continue, do we have anything in process to let potential applicants out there in the community know when it's time to submit an application each quarter?
Councilman, what I've done for the last couple of years is actually sent out a letter to those nonprofits that we know of, letting them know that we do have a sponsorship request, and actually sending them the application form. So a number of them do submit, but it's not all of them.
Okay, and so for this, we had 2 applicants, it looks like. And is there a deadline to get to this meeting, to get someone's request to this meeting?
So the deadline is really setting up for the budget, so
Right.
March 31st.
March 31st, okay. And then it's 3 months at a time?
Yes, each quarter.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right. Let the record reflect as well that Councilmember Espandola had to step out and excuse the rest of the meeting as she has a conflict this evening. Okay, back to agenda item 11, an ordinance adopting an equipment use policy per California Assembly Bill number 481. Commander Runyon, and there you are, sir.
There we go. Okay, so first off, just explaining a little bit of what AB Assembly Bill 481 is. It was adopted by the state legislature in the last year, effective January 1st, 2022. So it establishes requirements on how agencies fund, acquire, and use military equipment. They must adopt an ordinance for use and purchase of equipment, and it requires an annual renewal and report. It includes any equipment that they deemed military equipment that we already possess. So what equipment is included? Armored vehicles, drones and robots, explosive breaching apparatuses, firearms and ammunition greater than 50 caliber, flashbang grenades, tear gas projectiles, pepper balls, less lethal projectiles, and any equipment deemed necessary by a governing body. Exclusions are standard issued firearms and ammunition, pepper spray, non-explosive breaching equipment. So the recommendation is that we adopt an emergency ordinance authorizing the funding, acquisition, and use of military equipment currently in use or planned purchase by Yuba City Police Department as outlined in YCPD Policy 707. That was attached to the staff report and has been on the city's website since March 11th, and we have not had any inquiries as to the equipment that we are currently using at this time. Is there any questions?
Okay, thank you, Commander. And my understanding, this is basically just a compliance piece, correct?
Yes.
All right, any questions from the council? Hearing none, any from the public? Hearing none online.
No public comment.
Back to the council for action.
Through the mayor,
Yes, sir.
move that we waive the reading and adopt an urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Yuba City, adding Chapter 23 to Title 4 of the Yuba City Municipal Code, adding a policy related to the use of military equipment policy by title only.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second by Vice Mayor Kirchner. Motion was by Councilmember Boomgarden. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you, Commander. We will go to agenda item 12, fire inspection fee schedule, and we have Marshal Jesse Frias.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Thank you for tonight. I'm going to get through this rather quickly. We have had a long night. I appreciate the opportunity. So what I'd like to present to you are two items relating to inspection fees to R1 and R2 occupancies and assembly fees that are in the slide as well. This is a state mandated inspection that we conduct every year, and Senate Bill 1205 requires us to not only inspect, but report back to the governing body during the budget process. R1 and R2 inspections are hotels, motels, lodging houses, apartment, condominium buildings, state mandated by the Health and Safety Code. They're performed annually, and currently there's no fees for these types of inspections. Assembly inspections are occupancies being occupied for the use of gathering of 50 or more persons for civic, political, travel, religious, social, educational, recreational, and the like purposes, and the consumption of food and drink. These are performed annually by our fire department. We require an assembly permit. These do have a fee, so we're asking that fee be updated as well. The fee has not been updated in the past 10 years and probably a little bit longer. These are the proposed calculations. Currently, we have no fee structured for the R1 and R2s. So we would take the 3 and 50 units and apply a fire safety inspector level 2 at 2 hours, fire marshal time at 0.5 hours, admin clerk at 0.5 hours, admin fee 10%, totaling a $225 inspection. Units at 51 and greater, we take the same calculation, adding the same admin fee and getting a total of $300. As the units get larger, of course, the inspection will become greater. And the idea is that we will conduct and provide to them a service, a professional fire inspection that includes any kind of written report should they need post-inspection. The proposed calculations and fees for the assembly inspection are as current, $50 to $299 at $74. We're proposing to go to from $50 to $299 to $99. $300 to $999 or $98 currently, and $1,000 we currently go to $147. To the right there, we propose to go to $132 from $3 to $999, $1,198. And the same method was used to calculate those fees to get to those levels to the right. I do want to mention that in light of the Ghost Ship fire that took place in Oakland in December of 2016, and also the Rhode Island Station nightclub fire that relates to the assembly areas of a building. So these inspections are obviously important. We want to prevent the event and as well as perform our duties to our community. So with that, our recommendation is to adopt a fee schedule and that enables us to charge for fire inspection services, which include R1s, R2s, and updating the assembly permit fees. The projected fiscal impact would be at a minimum of $73,580 for the fiscal year 22-23.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the council? Hearing none. Any from the public? Any from the public? Hearing none. Online?
No public comment.
Back to the council for action. I need to do a public hearing. Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. We will actually open a public hearing on this. So we will open the public hearing, and that is concerning the fire inspection fee schedule. Anyone from the public that would like to speak on this matter, please come to the podium at this time. Anyone would like to speak on the matter, come to the podium at this time. Thank you, Spencer. I see you smiling. Anybody online that would like to speak?
No public comment.
Good. We will close the public hearing. Now we'll bring it back. And the city attorney is happy. So, all right, council for action.
Mayor, I move to approve staff's recommendation.
I have a motion from Councilmember Harris.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Baumgarten. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And we will move on to agenda item 13, amendment to the 2019 Collection Services Franchise Agreement with Recology Yuba-Sutter. Ms. Langley, you have the floor again.
All right, thank you. So before I get started, I would just like to acknowledge all of the work of Rico Diaz. He is in the audience right now, and his team at Recology. This last week was, we've been working on this amendment for the last couple of years. This last week was extremely stressful to try to get the amendment together and address a lot of points, and I really appreciate the amount of time and effort and dedication that he and his team to put into this to bring forward this amendment. So with that, I'll get started on my presentation. So for background, on October 2nd, 2018, City Council approved a collection services franchise agreement with Recology Yuba-Sutter. The agreement was scheduled to go into effect on October 1st, 2019. However, in February 2019, Recology submitted a request to amend the contract. In the staff report, there's detail as to what that amendment included, but council adopted that amendment in August 20, 2019, and so that amendment went into effect October 1st, 2019. During that time as well, we have Senate Bill 1383, which is the most significant waste reduction and recycling mandate to be adopted in California in the last 30 years. It includes statewide requirements to reduce organic waste disposal, which includes food, green paper products, and other materials, and increase edible food waste recovery. And here are a couple of the benchmarks. The city's current agreement provides for food waste collection service for commercial customers, but not for residential customers. And so an amendment is necessary to meet those residential food waste collection requirements as required by SB 1383. In addition, Recology is also requesting some amendments to the agreement. So for Yuba City's request, we want to stabilize the biosolids handling rate. So in the amendment, the first amendment, the original contract did not include biosolids handling. This is extremely important for our wastewater treatment facility, as the biosolids that are generated through the treatment process, we need a place for those to go. And those have been going to Recology for years, and they've been used as landfill cover. With SB 1383, it changes how that's calculated. And so with the amendment number 1, Recology provided us a rate to dispose of and haul the biosolids. There were a series of increases that were to go into effect, with the last increase being this October 1st. And then after that, it would change by the WST index. Also with this, there's a request to add a residential food waste collection program to be in compliance with SB 1383. Provisions for billing and service level audits. Require an emergency action plan should we have a catastrophic event within Yuba City. Recology would need to provide an emergency action plan to show how they could continue service. Add Yuba City to a combined diversion calculation with the other 5 Regional Waste Management Authority jurisdictions. Recology to pay the RWMA surcharge fee directly to the RWMA. Currently, it's incorporated into our franchise fee, even though it's not a fee that we monitor or manage. It's through the RWMA, so it's appropriate to take this out of the franchise fee and have Recology just deal directly with RWMA. We also have miscellaneous agreement language and minor service modifications. I need to also express gratitude to Allison Burley, who assists with RWMA administration. She went through our agreement, compared it to Sutter County's and Wheatland's, and identified a couple of key areas that we needed to modify with this amendment to make our agreement more in line with those agencies. And then also, this was a kind of a last minute addition, but Recology agreed to add a second recycling coordinator. So Recology's requests were to adjust the rate to compensate for the addition of a residential food waste collection program. Adding this program equated to about 2/3 of the cost of a truck and the personnel to operate that truck. So there's pretty significant costs associated with that. They asked to match the RWMA CPI rate methodology. Right now, our CPI rate methodology is based upon the April value to the April value, versus the other agencies are based upon an average over the year. Request additional ancillary charges to match the other RWMA agencies. So if you go through the rate schedule that's attached to the staff report, there are some line items in blue that are additional rates to match what's in the Sutter County rates. Remove the requirement to maintain an office in Yuba City, as there's an office available to all RWMA jurisdiction agencies at their Marysville main office, and then modify the term of the agreement to match the term of the other RWMA jurisdictions. Our contract had term limits that were 1 year off from the other agencies. Ours only allowed for 2 5-year extensions. The other agencies allowed for a third 5-year extension. By matching the terms, it's as we move to hire an RWMA executive director, it makes it easier for them to administer the contract, and also when it comes time to consider renegotiation of the contract, that all of the agencies have the same terms. So for the residential food waste program, this is a great opportunity for customers. Some of the acceptable items, of course, are food, but also food soiled paper products such as pizza boxes, paper plates, bags, napkins, tissues, and towels. As long as they are food soiled, they can go into, this is what's surprising to people, it'll go into the green bin, not the recycle bin, not the trash bin, but into the green bin. And then here's a list of unacceptable items. What's nice about being able to add the residential food waste collection program to our agreement is now Recology can actively advertise this program within all of the RWMA agencies without having to say, except for you people in Yuba City. And so it'll be nice to be able to apply this to all of the agencies. In terms of fiscal impact, as mentioned, there's cost to Recology to implement this program, to try to minimize the rate increases. And also it was council's desire to match Sutter County's rates. So on a go-forward basis, as rate increases are applied, they are applied the same to Sutter County's rates as well as Yuba City's rates. And so we are proposing that to raise the base rates such that Recology will receive an increase in revenue of 2.24%. Yuba City's franchise fee of 11.24% will be reduced to 10% to match Sutter County's franchise fees. And so that is a decrease to Yuba City revenues of approximately $260,000. But with the modifications on a go-forward basis, Yuba City's rates will match Sutter County's as well as their franchise fees, which is appropriate because the customers are receiving similar services. So what does that equate to the average single-family dwelling customer? If you have a 32-gallon trash bin, a 64-gallon recycling, and a 96-gallon organics, your current rate is $30.22 per month. It's going to go up to $30.61 per month. So approximately 40-cent increase on a monthly basis to be able to add all of those items that were noted and what Yuba City requested. So the fiscal impact will increase to Yuba City's base rates will be effective May 1st. Why is this important? Because customers will see this nominal increase on May 1st, and then October 1st, all RWMA agencies will see a CPI index. Fortunately, it's capped at 3%, but so Yuba City customers will see 2 rate increases in this year, and this is why. One of the huge things about this amendment is that we were able to negotiate our biosolids handling rate. Originally, it was going to be $63 per ton effective October 1st, or $76 per ton effective October 1st. We were able to negotiate that down to $63 per ton, which is a benefit to the operating fund for the wastewater treatment facility. So with that, the recommendation is to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a second amendment to the 2019 Collection Services Franchise Agreement with Recology Yuba-Sutter, subject to immaterial modifications by the city manager upon approval of the city attorney as to legal form. And the reason that I'm requesting the ability to make immaterial modifications is as we go into implementation, I'm sure we'll have questions about, what does this mean or what does that mean? And so having the ability to do those clarifications that are immaterial in terms of costs and things like that, I want to be able to have that flexibility to work with Recology to work those out without having to bring every single item back to city council. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions from the council?
Through the mayor?
Yes, sir.
So, Ms. Langley, what's the first day I can start putting food waste in my green bin?
May 1st.
May 1st, okay. Secondly, the emergency plan, is that completed or is it being worked on?
No, they have through October 1st, 2022 to prepare that emergency plan.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No question, just a comment, thanking both Diana and Rigo. I know this is complicated, it's deep, it takes a lot of discussion and work, and also building upon the clear professional mutual respect relationship you folks have. There's a lot of value in that, and that's how we got to this point, so thank you very much. I just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, the only comment I have is thank you to all parties involved because we've had an ad hoc committee, Rigo, we've had Diana Langley representing the city. You guys have all been deep in this. Councilmember Harris, thanks for staying with us for a couple of years because we kind of all inherited this, and I consider you inherited this with us because we know what happened, but we've been very intent for 3 years now to get this thing right. And I just want to acknowledge all the work that's gone into this. And as I've been on the RWMA now for 3 years, this is huge because I've listened to us not being ready for 1383. And that's the big takeaway here is we're going to be ready for 1383 and be like the rest of them and come alongside like it used to be. So this is huge. So big thank you. Mr. Diaz.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I would like to thank Diana and her staff for the amount of work that they've put into this also the council members that also put the amount of work into this. To your question, I know Diana just answered it May 1st, but we will see education this week. So if food up goes into the container this week, next week, before May 1st, that's not a big deal. But we are starting our campaign if this passes. And so you'll start seeing that education upon approval. So just wanted to mention that. Again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. So Vice Mayor, be a leader and throw your pizza box in there tomorrow, okay?
Done.
All right. Any of your comments or questions from the council? How about the public? Any comments or questions? All right, hearing none. Any comments online?
No public comment.
Hearing none. Thank you all for being in attendance tonight and watching. I'll bring it back to the council for action.
The mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a second agreement to the 2019 collection service franchise agreement with Recology Yuba-Sutter, subject to immaterial modifications by the city manager upon approval of the city attorney as to legal form.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second by Councilmember Harris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. So we are.
The mayor, I just wanted, sorry, you're moving along quickly. Just wanted to make sure that was a second amendment and not a second agreement. Is that correct? I'm assuming it's a second amendment.
Is in the.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. What was that? Did I misspeak? Just wanted to clarify for the record that it was a second amendment. Thank you.
Okay, we're good. Thank you. We're moving right along. Agenda item 14, water supply outlook and emergency water conservation measures. Mr. Moody.
All right, a lot of light items tonight. So, good evening, council, mayor, members of the city council. So the item before you is really all about water and where we're at. And so water in our region and in California is getting real. And so with that, what I'm here tonight is to give you an update on our supply outlook and then some recommendations on going forward based on a new executive order. And so, as you know, California is experiencing severe ongoing drought conditions, which will result in significant water supply reduction. And so the governor recently issued an executive order in March requiring all urban supplies to implement stage 2 water, which for us is water warning, to achieve a 20% conservation compared to 2020. It was a little bit confusing in his order because it required a stage 2 with a 20%, but in the city, the stage 2 is basically water warning where it's a goal without mandatory requirements. And so I'll get into that in a little bit. And then the city, last July, we've already gone into the voluntary stage. In July 2021, the city council approved going into stage 2 with a 15% target. Realistically, based on the winter, how dry it's been, we've really been seeing about a 5% target. And then so in order to reach that 20% goal that's based on the 2020 numbers, this is where staff is recommending to go to a stage 3 of our contingency plan, of our water contingency plan, which with a 20% goal that I'll get into. And so with this, there's a lot of numbers, and so please feel free to ask questions as we're going through it. And I have my Deputy Public Works Director, Utilities, Phil Marler, here to help us dive into any specifics if we need to. And so this is a big, complicated table. Really what we did as staff of the water treatment plant, we have this matrix of 4 licenses and permits where we get the surface water out of the river and tied with some groundwater wells. And so groundwater well number 1, we only bring it on as emergency or drought requirements. And we're basically projecting to run that thing full bore here soon, which would give us 900 acre feet a year. And then we're trying to bring on groundwater well number 9, which is an old Hillcrest water well, in June, as soon as we set up some of the chemical treatment necessary, and that has a capacity of 500. And so the big takeaway when we look at this is these are the numbers that if everything was great, this is how much water we could pull. from our contracts. And we typically, we're running about 15,000 acre feet a year right now. After the last drought, I mean, I shouldn't say the last drought, after the last shortage, that 2012 through 16, we went from anywhere from 18, 20,000 down to 15. Everybody kind of kept their water timers about the same. They kept running. And so we were sitting at about an average of 15,000. And so this number, we're hoping to do better than this, but this number is our supply, is what we're projecting as our available supply. Realistically, what I really want to see is conservation efforts to maximize this carryover water. So under our state water project, we have a carryover balance from wet years that we're allowed to tap into. And so we're really, the main push for us to go to this stage 3 and implement a 20% reduction is to maximize this carryover, because this year we're looking pretty good, but if we get into a dry fall, a dry winter, next year is going to be really rough. It's going to go into human health and safety for a lot of California, which is capped at 55 gallons per person per day, which is really, I ran the numbers just to kind of know where I was at. If we went to that at some point, another dry year, or we luckily we have some groundwater alternatives, but that's about a 40% reduction running your wells, which is a huge lift. So, I get sidetracked easy here. So what we're proposing is to, hey, I need to figure out how to get 20%, because the state's cutting off the water. If anybody's looked at the river, I'll go back to this lately. I pulled up the river elevation here this morning, and it was at 750 cubic feet per second, which is crazy low. I need to get out there and look at it, but we've seen a few weeks ago it was running a little bit higher at 3,000 cubic feet, and then it was down to 1,500, and so they're at 750 cubic feet a second, which I started running the number on how that looks against our intake structure, and our intake structure is pretty good, but at that elevation we have it calculated where that's about 75% capacity already. And so we're in good shape of where the intake is and how the river lays out, but it does start getting into, it starts to affect how fast and where you can pull water in. So what we're recommending with the stage 3 to try to hit this 20% savings to maximize that carryover water is to go to watering 2 days a week. So in years past, you may remember where we did even and odds, and we, even addresses had 2 days, and the odd addresses had 2 days, and they alternated. But the concern is those timers never changed from 4 or 5 years ago, and so we're not going to hit those reduction numbers that we need. And to be more consistent, because of the campaign and a lot of confusion on who's allowed to water when, we're recommending just 2 days, Monday and Thursday. We talked with our Parks Department a little bit to kind of get an idea. We talked about what the outreach and the campaign's going to look like, and how we enforce it. And that's where we came up with, we could pick any days of the week at the council's discretion. But through those conversations, we landed on Monday and Thursday, and we recommend in the morning and the evening. So there's no time limit, there's no specific hours, but basically 12:01 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. Monday and Thursday. Any questions before I move past that? Okay. So, what we're proposing is, should council approve it tonight, we would start the outreach campaign May 1st with full implementation in June. So, and then we'd actually go a little bit earlier, because we're trying to jump into the April utility mailing, where we could get it out here at the end of April, where we'd put a water guide, is what we're saying, with some of the information in there. So water education, conservation guide, public signage, such as billboards and banners, door hangers, staff-aided sprinkler timer adjustments. This is kind of what the flyer is tentatively looking at right now, where it has some of the information about the watering days, the enforcement, and then some options for where the city could help. So then the other big impact is the fiscal impact. And so, we're in the water business. So when you sell less water, you make less money. And so luckily with our rate structure, I say luckily, but the way our rate structure is set up is that we have a base amount, and that's a lot to do with those set costs with fixed costs that we have for running the plant from power to chemicals to labor that don't really change much based on the volume of water that we sell. So in our rate structure, we have the base, and then there's a charge for the overage over those 15. For most homes, it's over 15 units. And so looking at that and factoring in the rate increase that's been programmed for this year at 5%, we're looking at about a $600,000 delta that's for the negative. That is what we're projecting. And this really is a WAG. This is projecting the end of this year, then it's projecting next year based on this point in time. If the governor comes back in September or October and says, I can't deliver only so much water, I'll be back before you talking about some of those impacts. And so, but right now what I'm thinking is, this is a real number. It's somewhat significant in the budget. And then when you add on the increased power costs and chemical costs increase, you're looking at close to $700,000 to $800,000 net reduction to the water fund. And so staff's looking into that as we go into the budget process to make sure, we're cognizant of that and we're prioritizing funding. And then on the wastewater structure is relatively stable, and it shows an increase, a projected increase with that based on really the rate implementation that's programmed to go into effect. And so for a residential home, they pay a flat fee. And so that's not anticipated to have a major effect with the drought. So with that, I'm recommending adopting a resolution declaring that the water supply conditions are such they dictate and justify the need for the implementation of mandatory conservation measures to achieve 20% conservation in alignment with Stage 3 of the Water Shortage Contingency Plan. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the council? All right, any comments from the public? Any online?
No public comment.
Back to the council for action.
Through the mayor, adopt staff's recommendation.
I have a motion by Councilmember Baumgarten. I have a second by Councilmember Harris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Moody. We'll move right on to agenda item 15, which is a presentation of the utility billing arrearages and delinquencies. Mr. Morrison.
Evening, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight I'm bringing before you information on utility billing arrearages and delinquencies. So Yuba City's had delinquencies prior to COVID-19. However, the outstanding amounts ranged from about $50,000 to $75,000 per month, or at any given time, I should say. April 2nd, 2020 came a moratorium on discontinuance of service due to non-payments. We call those shutoffs. The order ended December 31st, 2022, so just back this last December. At about that time, Sacramento began rolling out utility billing relief programs, delaying a return to shutoffs. Senate Bill 998 was adopted a written discontinuation policy containing certain information in several languages, or actually required that we adopt a written discontinuation policy containing certain information in several languages posted on the city's website. Mandated that we wait until an account is at least 60 days delinquent before initiating shutoff protocol, which is pretty well in line with what we were already doing. It allows for a primary care provider to certify that the shutoff will pose a serious or potential fatal threat to a resident. So that's something that we need to verify before we were to do a shut-off. And we have to make sure that the customer has not demonstrated the inability to pay. And we have to make sure the customer is not willing to enter into an alternative payment agreement. And we must inform renters and mobile home residents about pending shut-offs and provide the opportunity for said persons to become the ratepayer. And we must post the number of shut-offs on our city website annually. So all these things together are good, but they have added steps to our shut-offs, discontinuance of service for non-payment, which does add to the size of our receivables. So I wanted to show you some analysis on delinquent accounts, delinquent amounts, and delinquency relief that's out there. So our delinquent accounts did run, used to run about 100 to 200 per month. They increased after the governor's moratorium, and they peaked around 1,400 per month, but have come down to about 1,000 accounts. And these accounts just continue to roll over. So we used to have these monthly accounts, and we'd get them on payment plans or shut the accounts off, receive payment, turn the accounts back on, and then next month was a new month. But now these amounts are just rolling from one period to the next. The delinquent amounts in February of 2020, so right before COVID started, it was about $60,000 roughly in receivables, delinquent amounts. This grew upwards to 700,000 plus at the height of our delinquency issues. And after the California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program relief payments, it'll be in the 450 to 1,000 range or so. Delinquency relief, the CWW-APP, which I just mentioned, California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program, did give the city $280,000 that we could apply to delinquent accounts. So that helped bring that amount down toward that 450,000 range. There was another, that was water. There's a sewer portion of this that's coming, and we expect that to be another $260,000 that will be applied strictly toward sewer bills. And then there's another, the LEWAP is what we call it, but it's the Low Income Household Water Assistance Program that's opening up soon. And this allows ratepayers themselves, not the city, but ratepayers to apply for up to $2,000 relief per household, per address. So those are things that are actually helping us now. So what tools do we have aside from shutoffs, or including shutoffs? Customer service and education. We provide late notices with those the red tags and red bills. That red tags go on the door hangers, and we have the red bills that come once a bill is already 1 month behind. And then Municipal Code Section 6-6.1G, and that says that the property owners are ultimately responsible for all water bills and utility bills on their property, and so that's been a good helpful tool. Payment plans is something that we've always done. We do expect that once we start shutoffs again, that we will, because due to some SB 998, we will have to offer payment plans much more often and make them very appealing, so we get as many people on payment plans as possible, which could make payment plans a little more difficult to manage. We do have shutoffs as a tool. We have property levies where we can levy the property taxes, put the charge on the property tax bill, and an intercept program where the Franchise Tax Board intercepts income tax returns and reduces the income tax return for the amount owed as well. So staff's plan. So we plan to continue delivering excellent customer service and education. We will be working to guide ratepayers to the LEWAP money. That's the $2,000 per address. We'll be providing website link, outreach by online, on our website, by mail and email as well. And then we also have the ability to provide outreach by text and calls. So as a ratepayer provides their communication email addresses or phone addresses or cell phone addresses, we have additional ability to reach out and provide information. We do plan to resume shutoffs. We have a lot of rules that these SB 998 rules that we must comply with. SB 998 came along just before COVID. So we will have to make sure that we're fully implemented before we start shutoffs again. And it'll take us about 90 days to fully ramp back up where we can start doing discontinuance of service as well, and also to allow adequate notice. Many of our ratepayers that are delinquent have become accustomed to not having to pay. And so it would be really pulling the carpet out from underneath someone if when we start to do shutoffs again. So we want to make sure that we allow plenty of time to not only get staff ramped up and processes ramped up, but to be communicating with ratepayers that are delinquent that shutoffs are coming. Again, adhere to SB 998 requirements, and then consider a payment plan administrator. As these payment plans start to really pick up and we have more than we've ever experienced, we're concerned about managing those. Our current software that we have available to us does not have payment plan management built into it. So right now it's a very manual process. And so there is a company out there that will help us manage our payment plans for about $10,000. And that could be quite inexpensive compared to staff time. So we're exploring that option, and we're exploring other options as well. And so with that, I'm happy to address your questions.
Any questions from the council?
Through the mayor, LEWAP, is the applicant, are they the actual ratepayer or are they the property owner?
I believe they're the actual ratepayer.
Okay, because I know in the other programs, apparently from folks who have been affected by the other, is that the property owner had to apply, which was causing some apprehension on the ratepayers because they didn't want to go to the property owner to initiate that process.
Right, and our understanding is well, actually, I think those had to come. I think we had to see those applications, and we got virtually none. We only got a very small handful of applications for some of those other relief programs. So this is a good program. Both the programs I talked about are all three where the city applies for money, gets money, and just pays down, applies the amounts to those $200,000. We apply them to the delinquent accounts. But that's a temporary fix because they still are not paying their bills, and so those delinquent accounts are going to grow again. But we're hoping that this LEWAP program, where the ratepayer can apply for relief themselves, will help give people the boost they need. But ultimately, unfortunately, in my experience, discontinuance of service due to non-payment is the most effective tool that we have.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Appreciate the update and the report. Agenda item 16 has already been handled earlier because we moved that up to the very first to accommodate those that were with us tonight. So we'll go to agenda item 17.
Mayor, I'm so sorry. Technically, this is still a business item, so we need to open it up for public comment onto the report, and then we can close it and move on.
All right, would you like to say anything?
No.
Anybody else in attendance? Anybody online? I got to have fun. It's been a long night here.
There is actually a public comment from Heather Essman. She said, for water, it is only fair that everyone using the service pay their fair share.
All right, thank you. All right, hearing no other comments, Then we will now move on to agenda item 17. And this is an opportunity to discuss with the city manager things that came up tonight that we want to have brought back at a future agenda. Is there anything that the council has? Hearing none, we will move on to reports and communications. We'll start with our city manager, Ms. Langley.
Right, so what I heard earlier tonight was to bring forward an item for San Brandon Park. So we will agendize that for a future meeting.
Okay.
And then the one thing I want to note is with this agenda, it was a very heavy lift for a lot of departments. The items before you tonight were complicated, they were complex. There was a lot of time and energy that went into getting the information. And so I just want to acknowledge all of the departments because they did a tremendous job bringing these items together and did a fantastic job of presenting those items. And then also with the Recology item, big thank you to Roy Santos out of Shannon's office and Shannon in terms of the amount of review and quick turnaround that had to take place to bring that amendment forward. So thank you.
All righty. Thank you. Bring it back to the council and Councilmember Baumgarten, you're up first.
A couple things. As far as meetings go, I was out of the state for a good portion of the 2 weeks. But I did attend the Regional Housing Authority meeting, and we should anticipate a presentation from Mr. Becerra of the Regional Housing Authority about Richland Village in the future in regards to the process of funding and extending certain agreements that we have made, a proposal for us to consider at least. So that'll be forthcoming. I guess as it relates to the pickleball courts, because this council is not meeting again until May 17th, is that correct? It seems that there probably ought to be something a little sooner on the pickleball courts than May 17th. I don't know what that answer is. Certainly willing to participate in trying to find out what that answer is. Ms. Dilday talked about East Oak Park, I guess. I'm not sure what the difference is or the security or the safety there was, but she seemed to speak highly of it. Perhaps we need to take a look at that. But I think waiting for the best part of a month to do something is probably not in the best interest of us or those who are trying to use our park and our pickleball court.
So one option is council does have a special council meeting scheduled for May 10th. It was intended to be a closed session to discuss negotiations. If council wanted to, we could have that on as a regular item for that night. Otherwise, we don't really have, we have the May 16th joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors. But if you're wanting something between now and prior to May 10th, 3 of the council members are at the Cap to Cap the first week of May. And so really we would be talking about next week if council wanted to schedule a special council meeting. And I don't know if that gives staff enough time to put together a staff report and presentation.
I don't know that certainly not requesting a special meeting, and I recognize that there's multiple conferences going on and folks attending those. But it seems like we ought to be able to do something. It doesn't necessarily take action from this body to address whatever's going on. Well, not whatever. We saw what's going on, and we've heard what's going on. Are we still closed down there?
No, and I know Mr. McIntyre's in his office right now, so if I speak incorrectly, hopefully he'll correct me. He has increased the amount of time that the private security guard is there to 4 days a week to try to mitigate some of these safety issues. In terms of the capital costs, we don't have the authority at this point in time to move forward with those just based upon the dollar amount. If council wanted to consider, increasing the security even more, we can definitely do that in terms of the number of days or the hours, just recognizing that it's going to impact his budget. But, we are projecting a surplus for this fiscal year, so there would be capacity to do that.
Well, I think that I don't know the usage. I don't have the knees to play pickleball, so I'm not a user. But 4 days a week, heaven forbid, the 5th, 6th, or 7th day when an incident happens. So, to me, arming staff with the authority and the ability to address whatever it is that needs to be down there to make it safe until we can get together to discuss something, I think seems very prudent to me. I don't know what my colleagues think, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the comments. I 100% agree. I don't think the intent was, nor was it staff's intent to wait an entire month, because I know you guys have already been working on it. Personally, with the simple fact that we do have, a surplus in the budget, and you have a level of authority for up to a certain dollar amount, I really want our people that are using those courts to be safe. So I would be very comfortable as one of 5 to just simply say, you have my full support to utilize your authority as city manager, that authorize whatever up to your limit needs to be to help with the safety, on top of the budget that we have already with Mr. McIntyre, if that's increased security, because the natural thought is, hey, let's have police patrol it more. But Chief, I know your guys are everywhere in the city. So whatever we need to do, I have confidence, Ms. Langley, in you and your team. And I would say I support your unilateral authority that you have up to that dollar amount to help our residents feel safe. Is that kind of where you were going, thinking? Yeah.
So through the mayor, the parks budget is certainly going to be under budget. If I had to guess right now, probably $50,000 to $60,000. So we certainly have the capacity to pay for additional security. Right now, we're doing 3 to 4 days a week. We pick random times to do that so that it can't be predicted, but we'll just add to 7 days a week, again, averaging 4 to 5 hours. And it pretty much is going to be, the park closes at 10 o'clock for everybody. So we'll make sure it goes from roughly 7 to 11. And now 7 o'clock, it's still light outside, so it should provide quite a bit of security. And we will place them right there by the pickleball courts. And they do a very good job, and they get outside the vehicle and they walk around as well. If there's a lot of conflict, it looks like conflict that can't be resolved with the security department, with the security firm that we hire, then their directive is to call PD immediately, and that's usually when we get a pretty good response. So.
Through the mayor, can that be communicated to the people that showed up tonight?
I can take care of that.
All right.
Brad, to the extent where it's practical and possible, I think the time has come that we move beyond just telling them to knock it off. And we maybe kick in some enforcement and some accountability for both the kids and the parents, wherever it's appropriate within the law. But running them off and then they give you that is just not cool anymore.
And I think it'll be our securities firm, it's going to be their responsibility to try to avoid the conflict, help the conflict move on. And if it doesn't, then they will certainly reach out to PD, which will have to issue some.
I guess my point is we can, rather than be reactive, proactive, and we'll create the conflict if they're going to go there, and we'll take care of business. I need
to bring this back in because I'm being directed over to my right, because this agenda item's already been discussed and this is for our comments. We need to kind of go backwards. I think everybody's got the intent of where we need to be. Mr. Chaffin, is that good for you now? Okay. All right, Councilmember Harris, it's actually your turn to talk now, so go right ahead.
Just a little bit. I know we're getting late here, and sorry, the middle finger slipped out. Sorry, but SACOG, we had a really good one-day board retreat. Team building stuff down at a place I didn't know existed, a sugar mill down in Clarksburg. A good dynamic guest speaker, former mayor of Fresno. She was very informative how they incorporated their triple bottom line, which we have also as equity, environment, and economy. Anyway, it was one full day, very informative and very good. It was the first time that we've all gotten together face to face in literally years. attended the Deedar S. Baines Park groundbreaking, which was very well attended, and I was happy to be a part of that. Congratulations to everybody involved with the multiple years of planning that went into that. Let's see, cap to cap, I'm on transportation and civic amenities committees. We have our first meeting tomorrow for the transportation committee. Excuse me, no, the civic amenities, and then we also have transportation coming up. I'm also going to take the opportunity while we're back there, and I've reached out to Rails to Trails folks and have scheduled a meeting with them, with the intent being to keep the conversation and the relationships going, the momentum going, with anticipation of our regional bike path, which is part of SACOG's regional trail network as well. And let's see here, had a meeting in anticipation my appointment to our film commission, Film Yuba-Sutter. Had a meeting with Marnie and Sabrina, who is our consultant from Film Shasta, our first initial face-to-face meeting, which went very well. So looking forward to good things, and that's it.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
To the mayor. I'll try to keep this short because it's been a late night. Attended Mosquito. Not much going on other than they're still looking to grade the or pave the parking lot and get a bid on that. A couple of merit increases and also a quarterly review of the benefit plan. I was privileged to be invited to the mayor's prayer breakfast, which I enjoyed. Thank you, Mayor, for that invite. Attended a Recology meeting with Councilman Boomgarden and talked about issues that we talked about tonight. Currently, and also attended the groundbreaking at a brand new Yuba City Park, which is always exciting. A lot of people, smiley faces out there. It was nice to be a small part of that. Right now, we are currently in a budget ad hoc. Councilman Boomgarden and myself, and I will be going to cap. My first meeting will be tomorrow when I'm in budget ad hoc for water. But I will be water and flood, and I'm looking forward to that. And that's what I've got. One quick thing. Mark your calendars. This Saturday, the annual bike around the Buttes benefits juvenile diabetes, and then Sunday, the annual Chico Wildflower benefiting the Chico Vehicle Club. So that's what I got. Thank you.
Ready, thank you. I will keep mine relatively short as well. Not much going on my front as I was wrapping up tax season, but starting with today, moving forward, I think I have city meetings every day of some sorts, cap to cap coming up. I'm on public safety as well as economic development. We've already had 2 or 3 meetings of each of those, and I will be flying out next Friday for those. In the last couple of weeks, as the Vice Mayor said, my wife and I hosted the first Mayor's Prayer Breakfast on the Monday after Palm Sunday. Had a good turnout from the pastors of the area. Really looking to encourage them and also get their help with, the community problems, as we've heard many of those tonight. So it is community issues. And then with my colleagues, I had the honor of being part of the groundbreaking. So that was quite the feat. I want to thank my colleagues for stepping up as they have during the last 3 months for me, covering things. Really appreciate it. That's why we're a great team. Ms. Langley, you and your team for the incredible job you've been doing. Mr. McIntyre, who's left again, but thank you to his entire team for setting up everything for the park groundbreaking. Phenomenal job across the board. Cannot say kudos enough. And if I did, we'd be here until 10 o'clock. So I'm going to bypass that. The last thing I would like to just ask of my fellow council members, and I'm going to ask this now. I was hoping Councilmember Espandola would be here, but I know she had to leave. Based upon the conversation earlier with directing AHA to CDBG. We originally had thought about maybe just running without an ad hoc this year, but I think it might behoove us to have a set of eyes to not do your work, Mr. Moody, but come along before it comes to council. And I would like to ask the Vice Mayor if he would help me with that. And if my fellow council members in attendance are good with that, we will look at that so that we carry those things forward and work with Mr. Moody if you're good with that, sir. And with that, I don't have anything else. I have a lot to report next time. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the community engagement. And with that, we will adjourn.